Chapter 216. The Foundation Establishment cultivator from the underworld sect stared at the cultivator surnamed Li and warned coldly, "Kid from the Beiyuan sword sect, don't think you can do whatever you want just because you're in the north of the mountain." With that, the two late-stage Foundation Establishment cultivators left on their swords. Wang Daoyuan took out another 40 to 50 middle-grade second-stage talismans and smiled. "Daoyu Li, do you want to fix the formation and continue or stop here?" The cultivator surnamed Li waved his hand. "I'm not Daoyu's match, so I'll take my leave now. When my cultivation improves greatly, I'll come back and spar with Daoyu Xiao." With that, he turned and left. Wang Daoyuan couldn't be bothered to deal with this kid. If they were in the wilderness, he wouldn't have to waste so much effort. 2 earth divine thunders would have been enough. Why would he waste his breath on him? After the cultivator surnamed Li left, Wang Daoyuan put away the broken soundproof formation disc. As for the defensive formation of the shop, he'd better wait for the people from the Beiyuan sword sect to fix it. It was already shocking enough to reveal that he could refine pills and possibly refine talismans. He couldn't reveal that he was proficient in formations as well. The fight with the cultivator surnamed Li caused a huge commotion and made the shop famous. Business improved a lot in the next few days. A cauldron of pills was sold out in 2 or 3 days. 3 days later, the Beiyuan sword sect sent someone over again. This time it was the young man from the Li family who welcomed Xianxia at the Beiyuan Inn. Behind him was a middle-aged cultivator at the 4th level of Foundation Establishment. This person was much more eloquent than the previous one. He cupped his hands towards Wang Daoyuan. "I'm Li Jianfeng. Greetings, Daoyu Huang." Li Jianfeng was the eldest son of the Beiyuan sword sect's sect master. It was said that he was extremely talented and reached the Foundation Establishment stage before he was 40. He was now in his 50s, about the same age as Wang Daoyuan. Although his face was kind, it could not hide the sharp aura around him. This person's attainment in the path of sword cultivation was far greater than the previous cultivator from the Li family. Since the other party was polite, Wang Daoyuan naturally treated him with courtesy. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "So it is the young sect master of the Beiyuan sword sect who has graced us with his presence. Please forgive me for not welcoming you earlier." Li Jianfeng smiled and said, "I wouldn't dare. Earlier my younger brother was rude and offended Daoyu. I hope Daoyu won't blame him. Today I'm here to help Daoyu repair the formation." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "It's just a small matter, there's no need for young sect master to grace us with your presence. Please come in and have a seat." Li Jianfeng gave the array formation master a look, and the array formation master began to inspect the damage of the store's defensive array formation. In Wang Daoyuan's eyes, the Li family really did not have the slightest bit of respect for their own sect's array formation master. If he had agreed to join the Beiyuan sword sect, he would have received the same treatment. He led Li Jianfeng into his cave residence and invited Li Jianfeng to sit down. After Li Jianfeng sat down, he said apologetically, "My younger brother has always been rash and has offended Daoyu. Please forgive him. I'm here to sincerely invite Daoyu to join the Beiyuan sword sect. I hope that Daoyu won't decline." Wang Daoyuan sighed and said, "When your younger brother came earlier, I also made it very clear. I'm used to being undisciplined and don't like restrictions. Your sect can't give me what I need the most. What your sect can give is nothing more than spirit stones. Does Daoyu think that I lack spirit stones?" Li Jianfeng was silent for a moment and said, "When Daoyu was teaching my younger brother a lesson earlier, he took out more than 100 middle-grade grade 2 talismans. Ordinary cultivators, even if they were wealthy, would not carry so many talismans with them. Could it be that Daoyu is also a talisman master?" Wang Daoyuan knew that he could not hide it and said frankly, "I won't hide it from Daoyu. I'm indeed a middle-grade grade 2 talisman master." Li Jianfeng was a little excited. He stood up and bowed. In the northern part of the mountain, humans and demons live together. The Netherworld sect colludes with the demons to suppress human cultivators. The Beiyuan sword sect wants to strengthen the human race, but they are not strong enough. I respectfully invite you to join the Beiyuan sword sect and strengthen the human race together." Wang Daoyuan sneered in his heart. "You really think that I'm a rookie who has never seen the world? You're all 1,000-year-old foxes, why are you acting with me? However, what happened to sword cultivators being straightforward? What kind of weirdos are the sword cultivators of the Beiyuan sword sect? Not only do they open brothels, but they also learned to use racial justice to kidnap people. Although he despised Li Jianfeng in his heart, he still pretended to be touched and said, "I admire the Beiyuan sword sect's heart to strengthen the human race. However, what I need is only the yin-yang purple jade. The other things are just fleeting clouds to me. I really don't want to be tied down by the sect, so please forgive me, Dao. However, since the young sect master has come personally, I can't not express anything. From now on, the pills in my shop will be sold to the Beiyuan sword sect at 80% price. In addition, I can also refine pills for your sect at a low price. What do you think, Dao?" Li Jianfeng thought for a long time before sighing and saying, "It's a pity that I can't work with you. Since that's the case, I'll have to trouble you to refine pills for my Beiyuan sword sect. My Beiyuan sword sect can't let you suffer a loss. Every time you refine a cauldron of pills, we will pay Dao you 50 spirit stones. As long as there are more than 4 pills in a cauldron, we will buy them according to the market price. In addition, since you are also proficient in talismans, I hope you can sell some talismans to us. The talisman paper and ink will be provided by us. We will pay you 30 spirit stones for each middle grade level 2 talisman. What do you think, sir?" This treatment was not bad. With Wang Daoyuan's skills, he could refine middle grade level 2 pills 6 times a day at most. Even if the success rate was only 40%, he could still earn more than 200 spirit stones a day. It was easy to earn tens of thousands of spirit stones a year. This was also the reason why his spiritual sense was high. Ordinary second-grade alchemists could only refine 3 cauldrons a day. If he refined more, his spiritual sense would be exhausted and it would seriously affect the success rate. Of course, most alchemists couldn't refine pills every day because they didn't have enough spirit herbs. Wang Daoyuan replied, "This treatment is a bit too generous. I naturally have no objections." Afterwards, the two of them carefully discussed the details of their cooperation. In the end, they reached an agreement. Wang Daoyuan would refine a cauldron of rejuvenation pills and a cauldron of condensing pills for the Beiyuan sword sect every day. In addition, he would provide 3 middle-grade level 2 talismans to the Beiyuan sword sect every day. The price would be according to the previously agreed-upon price. The array master that Li Jianfeng brought over also quickly finished repairing the shop's defensive array. The two of them bid farewell and left. Wang Daoyuan checked the defensive array to see if this array master had left any backup plans such as surveillance, eavesdropping or the like. Through his method of inscribing array patterns, Wang Daoyuan confirmed that this array master should have just entered the second grade and his technique was rusty. However, he didn't leave any backup plans. Moreover, leaving a backup plan on the shop's defensive array was too easy to be discovered. The defensive array of each shop in the market was related to the defensive array of the entire market. Leaving a backup plan on the shop's defensive array might affect the operation of the entire defensive array and be easily discovered by the controller of the defensive array. At that time, when the upper echelons of the market investigated, the person who left a backup plan would definitely have to bear the consequences. On the surface, Wang Daoyuan was only a middle-grade level 2 alchemist, but the Beiyuan sword sect sent the young sect master to personally recruit him. It could be seen how great the demand for alchemists was on the Beiyuan sword sect's side. Since the Beiyuan sword sect was in the pill business, they definitely had their own alchemists. Under such circumstances, they could still provide him with the spirit herbs needed for 2 cauldrons of pills a day. And the Beiyuan sword sect's businesses on the surface couldn't provide so many spirit herbs. Even the Green Willow region couldn't provide a stable supply of spirit herbs for the Beiyuan sword sect. After all, there was no place to grow spirit herbs in the Green Willow region. Relying on rogue cultivators to gather spirit herbs was simply a matter of luck. It could be seen that the Beiyuan sword sect definitely had a hidden source of spirit herbs. Chapter 217. Judging from the fact that the main ingredient needed for the core condensing pill needed 200 years to mature, this secret source of spirit herbs had been preparing for 200 years. Moreover, there was definitely a lot of spirit fields. The spirit herbs produced by the Wang family's dozens of mu of spirit fields weren't even enough for the family's pill refiners. The Beiyuan sword sect made him refine 2 cauldrons of pills a day. Coupled with their own pill refiners, their daily workload wouldn't be less than his. Even though the Beiyuan sword sect only had 1 rank 2 pill refiner like him, refining 2 cauldrons of rank 2 pills a day, they had to ensure that the 2 pill refiners were able to refine pills like this and that there was an endless supply of spirit herbs. Since they were in a hurry to recruit pill refiners, it meant that there was a lot of spirit herbs produced. The existing pill refiners couldn't use them all, and it might cause a backlog of spirit herbs. From the looks of it, the Beiyuan sword sect's source of spirit herbs had at least 1,000 mu of rank 2 spirit fields. In addition, they had to consider rank 1 spirit herbs. As long as there were rank 2 spirit fields, there would definitely be more rank 1 spirit fields in the surrounding area. Conservatively speaking, this source of spirit herbs had at least 2,000 mu of rank 1 spirit fields. The Zhou royal family had been overthrown for 300 years, but they still had such a foundation. This family was truly rich. After that, the Beiyuan sword sect would send someone to deliver the spirit herbs, talisman paper, and spirit ink needed for the month at the beginning of every month. At the end of the month, they would send someone to deliver the reward and take away the pills and talismans. With Wang Daoyuan's true skill, he could refine 7 to 8 pills of mid and low-grade grade 2 pills in one cauldron. His success rate for mid-grade grade 2 talismans was also above 60%. However, in order to not expose his skill and not let the Beiyuan sword sect obtain too many resources, he only handed over the pills and talismans according to the success rate of 40% each time. The other pills were sold in the shop and the talismans were kept for self-defense. 3 months later, Fu Qing came to Wang Daoyuan's shop again with an early-stage foundation establishment wandering cultivator. Before Wang Daoyuan could speak, Fu Qing introduced, "Senior Huang, I'd like to introduce you to a business deal. This Senior Zhou wants to sell a few spirit herbs. I thought that since Senior Huang has opened a medicinal pill store, you should be able to purchase spiritual herbs, so I brought Senior Zhou here." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "I am Wang Daoyuan. I wonder what kind of spirit medicine Daoyu is selling." The cultivator surnamed Zhou took out 5 to 6 spirit medicines from his storage bag and placed them on the counter of the shop, asking, "Daoyu Huang, how much can you sell these spirit medicines for?" These few stalks of spirit herbs were all dried goods, not a single one was alive. These spiritual herbs were all of the same type, known as the golden thread grass. The leaves were like threads, golden in color. The golden silk grass was a level 2 upper grade spirit medicine, and it was one of the supplementary ingredients to concoct the level 3 meridian shielding pill. When Wang Daoyuan was building his foundation, if he didn't have the protection of the meridian shielding pill and took 2 foundation establishment pills at the same time, it was very likely that his meridians would be damaged. Taking the meridian shielding pill when breaking through a realm or using a powerful spell could prevent the damage to the meridians. The meridian shielding pill was a level 3 lower grade spirit medicine. It was one of the easiest level 3 spirit medicine to concoct. It was very suitable for a level 2 upper grade pill master like Wang Daoyuan to try concocting a level 3 spirit medicine. However, this meridian shielding pill's spirit medicine was relatively rare. Wang Daoyuan had never seen it before. Now that he came across a few stalks, he naturally couldn't let them go. He carefully examined the stalks of golden thread grass. Unfortunately, there were no seeds left, otherwise he could plant them in the space of the spirit bead. Feeling a bit disappointed, he offered a price: 100 spirit stones for 1 stalk, 7 stalks of golden thread grass for 700 spirit stones. What do you think, Daoyu? The cultivator surnamed Zhou was very satisfied with this price, saying, "Daoyu Huang, this price is quite reasonable, let's go with this price." Wang Daoyuan took out 700 low-grade spirit stones and gave them to the cultivator surnamed Zhou, putting away the golden thread grass. The cultivator surnamed Zhou bought a few soul-condensing pills and rejuvenation pills. Wang Daoyuan gave him a 10% discount. After taking the pills, the cultivator surnamed Zhou didn't leave. Instead, his eyes swept over the surroundings. Wang Daoyuan took out 10 spirit stones and gave them to Fu Qing, saying, "I want to buy a detailed map of the North Mountain. Help me ask around. As long as you can find it, you won't be short of benefits. Remember, the bigger the map area, the more detailed the better." Fu Qing took the spirit stones and eagerly ran out. Wang Daoyuan closed the shop door, opened the defensive formation and asked, "Daoyu Zhou, if you have anything to say, just say it." The cultivator surnamed Zhou took out a tree branch that was 10 feet long and as thick as an arm from his storage bag. Although the branch was already dried up, the strong spirit energy fluctuation on it showed that it was a branch of a level 2 upper grade spirit wood. Wang Daoyuan picked up the branch only to feel that it was heavy in his hand. The weight of this tree trunk wasn't light. The wood part of this branch wasn't anything special. Although it was very heavy, its strength wasn't high. so it couldn't be considered a good refining material. However, the bark was very extraordinary, blood red in color and extremely tough. It could be used to make level 2 upper grade talisman papers. This was only a branch. If it was the bark of the trunk, it could be used to make level 3 lower grade talisman papers. This branch might have been cut off from the blood dragon wood, a 3rd grade spirit wood. If it was really blood dragon wood, then its value would be very high. The bark of blood dragon wood could be used to make level 3 talisman papers, and the branch could be used to make level 3 spirit charcoal. The only pity was that this blood dragon wood had already withered. If it was still alive, it could still be planted near the life spirit fire in the spirit pearls space. He was still carefully observing the branch when the cultivator surnamed Zhou became a bit anxious and asked, "Daoyu Huang, how much is this branch worth?" Wang Daoyuan smiled. Daoyu Zhou should also know what this branch is, or else he wouldn't have taken it out in the end. If Daoyu Huang chopped the trunk, it should be worth 2,000 to 3,000 spirit stones. But this branch isn't even worth 100 spirit stones. If it was a live branch, it wouldn't be a big deal to sell it to a clan or sect for 10,000 spirit stones. The cultivator surnamed Zhou smiled. Daoyu Huang is really knowledgeable. This branch of blood dragon wood isn't worth much, but the whole blood dragon wood is very valuable. Wang Daoyuan was a bit puzzled and asked, "Since Daoyu Zhou knows what this is, then why did you bring it to me to sell?" The cultivator surnamed Zhou replied, "When I was picking herbs in Mount Huiyan, I happened to find a small valley. That valley seemed to be the medicine garden of a senior expert. There were some traces of the formation core, but the formation had been completely destroyed, so it should have been there a long time ago. The golden silk grass and this blood dragon wood branch were all obtained from there. After I entered the small valley, I first found the golden silk grass at the edge of the valley. As I continued to go deeper, I found a blood dragon wood. I originally wanted to cut off all the branches and leaves of the blood dragon wood, then dig up the trunk by the roots. I didn't expect that the formation in the valley had been destroyed, and the entire valley had been occupied by demonic beasts. On top of that blood dragon wood, there was a second-rank mid-grade python. The blood dragon wood had many branches and leaves, so I didn't see the python hiding inside. When I cut off the branch, I alarmed the python and was ambushed by it, almost dying in that valley. I hid in a secluded place and recuperated for a few months. After my injuries were healed, I returned to Mount Huiyan Market. This time I came to find Daoyu to inquire about him carefully. Daoyu Huang is also a loose cultivator and doesn't have any background here. Previously he was bullied by the Beiyuan sword sect and had no choice but to agree to refine pills for them. However, Daoyu Huang is not weak and can defeat sword cultivators of the same level from the Beiyuan sword sect. Zhou Xian would like to invite Daoyu Huang to explore that valley together. You and I will split everything we find. What does Daoyu Huang think? Chapter 218. Wang Daoyuan pondered for a moment and replied, "I'm naturally very happy to earn some extra money. However, the danger isn't small either. With the two of us, even if we can win against a mid-grade rank 2 demon beast, the commotion won't be small either. There are mid-grade rank 2 demon beasts near the edge of the valley, so it's not strange for there to be high-grade rank 2 demon beasts inside. If we alarm them, I'm afraid we won't be able to keep our lives." Zhou Xian smiled and said, "I won't hide it from Daoyu. I've cultivated a powerful spell that can quickly kill demon beasts. However, the casting speed is relatively slow. I'm the only one dealing with the demon beast, so I don't have a chance to use it. As long as Daoyu can delay the giant python for 20 breaths of time, I can kill it in one blow. How about we leave after taking the blood dragon wood?" Wang Daoyuan pondered for a long time and nodded. "Then we'll do as Daoyu said. Delaying the giant python for 20 breaths of time shouldn't be a problem. When does Daoyu plan to go?" Zhou Xian pondered for a moment and said, "I still need to prepare some things. How about we leave in half a month?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "Naturally, no problem. I can go at any time. After half a month I'll continue to wait here for Daoyu." The two exchanged some pleasantries and Zhou Xian bid farewell and left. The next day, Fu Cheng brought an old late-stage qi condensation cultivator to Huang clan's medicinal shop. Seeing Wang Daoyuan, Fu Cheng bowed and said, "Senior Huang, this is Daoyu Jiang. He has an ancestral map for sale. Unfortunately, because the map is too big, he hasn't been able to sell it. He's also not willing to divide the map and sell it piece by piece. You said that the bigger and more detailed the map, the better, so I brought him here." Wang Daoyuan was interested. What kind of map could be so big that it couldn't be sold? He asked with interest. How big is the map that it can't be sold? Take it out and let me see. As long as it's good, I'll definitely buy it. The cultivator surnamed Jiang bowed and said, Senior Huang, this shop is too small. I'm afraid the map won't fit. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, Then let's go to the backyard. The backyard has an area of more than 2 acres. It should be enough, right? The cultivator surnamed Jiang nodded repeatedly and said, It's enough, it's enough. The 3 of them arrived at the backyard, and the cultivator surnamed Jiang took out a pile of things from his storage bag. The pile seemed to be made of some kind of animal skin. It was about 1 zhang in length and width and 5 to 6 feet in height. With Fu Cheng's help, the cultivator surnamed Jiang spread out the pile of animal skins, covering nearly half an acre of land. It was a complete piece of animal skin with drawings and annotations all over it. With Wang Daoyuan's divine sense, he could only memorize a square foot of content after observing for 20 to 30 breaths of time. Wang Daoyuan exclaimed in admiration, Daoyujiang, this map of yours is really good. I really don't know what kind of person could make such a detailed map. Seeing that Wang Daoyuan was interested in the map, the cultivator surnamed Jiang was overjoyed. He said, When I was young, I heard from my elders that my family's ancestors were once a great power. This map was made by my family's ancestors. I don't know how many generations they spent to make it. Unfortunately, our family declined more than 1,000 years ago. Until now, there hasn't been a foundation establishment cultivator in our family for several generations. The things left behind by our ancestors that can be sold have already been exchanged for spirit stones. Only this map remains unsold. Daoyujiang is willing to buy a part of it, but I'm not willing to damage my family's heirloom, so I haven't been able to sell it. If Senior is willing, I only hope that Senior can preserve this map in its entirety. That way I'll be able to face my ancestors. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, No problem. I'm very satisfied with this map. I'll definitely preserve it in its entirety. How many spirit stones are you selling this map for? Name a price. With Fu Qing here, the cultivator surnamed Jiang didn't dare to name a price. He was afraid that the fact that he had a large number of spirit stones on him would be leaked. Wang Daoyuan handed Fu Qing 20 spirit stones and said, You did well this time. These 20 spirit stones are your reward. Fu Qing took the spirit stones and left with 1,000 thanks. Only now did the cultivator surnamed Jiang dare to name a price. I want to sell this map for 2,000 spirit stones. If Senior thinks the price is too high, we can still discuss it. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, For such a good map, 2,000 spirit stones is more than worth it. Since your family's ancestors worked hard for it, 2,000 spirit stones it is. After he said that, Wang Daoyuan took out 20 mid-grade spirit stones and gave them to the cultivator surnamed Jiang. As the cultivator surnamed Jiang received the spirit stones, his eyes became moist. He carefully folded the map and gave it to Wang Daoyuan. Then he respectfully bid farewell and left. Wang Daoyuan stored the map in the space of the spirit bead. This map weighed around 500 to 600 pounds and was made with animal skins. Ordinary storage bags wouldn't be able to hold it. It was also very inconvenient to carry such a large map with him when he went out. It was also very strenuous to take out the map and look at it. Moreover, there was too much information on this map and it wasn't suitable to be recorded in jade slips or animal skins. Under normal circumstances, a jade slip or an animal skin could only record around 10,000 words. There were at least hundreds of thousands of words on this map, and there were also pictures. It would take nearly 100 jade slips to record it. Who would spend so much effort for such a map? This map was indeed not suitable for ordinary people. However, it was very suitable for Wang Daoyuan. With the space of the spirit bead and his clone, if he wanted to check the map, he could just let his clone do it. Coupled with the 40 times faster flow of time in the space, he didn't have to worry about checking slowly. As soon as the map was stored in the space of the spirit bead, Wang Daoyuan ordered his clone Wu Yi to check it. At first glance he knew why the map was so large. The map covered a large area, not only covering half of the Wild Goose Mountain range, but also the entire northern mountain region as well as many other regions north of the Thousand River. The entire Qingli County was included in the map. The map spanned 100,000 li from north to south and 50,000 li from east to west. The map marked the location of every second-grade spirit vein and above, as well as the precious items in each area. In addition, it also recorded the history of the names of some areas. The only shortcoming was that the map only had a brief description of the sky-chopping mountain range. There was no mention of the eastern region of the sky-chopping mountain range. It seems the Jiang clan's ancestral power isn't small. The things recorded on the map are nothing to a great power, not worth investigating. With so much information on the map, the Jiang clan's ancestral intelligence network must have covered these regions. The brief description of the sky-chopping mountain range meant the Jiang clan didn't extend their reach into the sky-chopping mountain range. Wu Yi spent a lot of effort and finally found a place on the map called Hell Valley. 5,000 years ago, there was a great flood that flattened the Hell Valley. Hell Valley's name was never mentioned again. Hell Valley's location was 20,000 li west of the Wild Goose Gathering Market, and 10,000 li north of the Underworld sect. There was a river that flowed through this place. The river's water contained dense Yin energy, hence the name Profound Yin River. Now, Profound Yin River was a gathering place for cultivators who played with corpses. Now that he knew the target's location, he could go straight to Profound Yin River after getting the dragon blood wood. The days of being watched by the Origin Sword sect in the market had finally come to an end. Chapter 219. The appointed day arrived in the blink of an eye. Zhou Xian arrived at Huang's elixir shop. Wang Daoyuan led him into the shop and asked, "Zhou Daoyu, are you ready?" Zhou Xian smiled and said, "Everything is ready. We can set off at any time." Wang Daoyuan changed into the attire of a loose cultivator and left the shop with Zhou Xian. The small valley that Zhou Xian found was more than 6,000 li west of Guiyuan Market. Guiyuan Sword Sect had people watching the shop. In order to avoid the eyes of Guiyuan Sword Sect, they decided to go south and leave Guiyuan Market. They first went to the south of the mountain, then went west. After bypassing Guiyuan Sword Sect, they went over Huiyan Mountain and returned to the north of the mountain. The people of Guiyuan Sword Sect did not dare to go to the south of the mountain casually. This route could shake off Guiyuan Sword Sect's pursuit. Moreover, they could avoid the area occupied by the Red-Beard bandits. Both of them were dressed in black and wore veils and bamboo hats. After blending into the crowd of people in the market, it was difficult to find them. After leaving the market, they immediately flew south on their swords. Soon they arrived at Jinyan City. In order to avoid being followed, they directly entered Jinyan City. Not long after, they left the city through the south gate and went west along the south foot of Huiyan Mountain. The journey was very smooth. After traveling 6,000 li, they went north and crossed Huiyan Mountain. This place was still part of Huiyan Mountain's remnant vein. It was still about 4,000 li away from the main vein. Outside of the main vein, there were generally no third-rank monsters. Most second-rank monsters were not a big threat to foundation-building cultivators. They no longer hid their tracks and flew north on their swords. When flying over the territories of monsters, the monsters were probably used to it. As long as they did not fly too low and did not release pressure to provoke them, they did not care. Zhou Xian led the way in front. When they were only a few dozen li away from the north of the mountain, they arrived at a small valley that was 2 to 3 li long and 7 to 8 zhang wide. Zhou Xian stopped here. Wang Daoyuan asked, "Daoyuzhou, there is no spirit vein here. How can there be blood dragon wood?" Zhou Xian smiled and said, "If that valley was so easy to find, who knows how many years have passed? Would we have a chance to get the good things inside?" After saying that, he controlled his flying sword and landed on the ground. Wang Daoyuan followed closely behind and landed on the ground. He saw Zhou Xian walk towards the western cliff in the middle of the small valley. There did not seem to be anything out of the ordinary here. As they got closer, Wang Daoyuan felt that the concentration of spiritual qi here had increased. He used his divine sense to explore the rock wall, only to discover that there was a tiny crack in the rock wall, from which spiritual power was constantly pouring out. His divine sense probed behind the crack, only to discover that there was a cave behind it. There was also a broken array formation in the cave. With his proficiency in formations, it was easy for him to see that this was a formation that blocked the flow of spirit qi. It was used to prevent the spirit qi from flowing out of the cave. If it were not for the fact that the formation was somewhat damaged, causing the spiritual qi to leak out, Zhou Xian would not have discovered this valley. Zhou Xian walked to the front of the rock wall and placed his hand on a protruding rock beside the crack. He used all his strength to twist it. The rocks beside the crack slowly opened, revealing the cave behind it. The cave was about 10 feet high and 3 feet wide. It was quite spacious. Zhou Xian smiled and said, "The place where I found the golden silk grass and the blood dragon wood was behind this cave." After saying that, he walked into the cave first. Wang Daoyuan stuck 2 middle-grade second-tier earth armor talismans on his body and followed behind, walking in. After entering the cave, Zhou Xian pressed on a rock inside the cave, and the rock at the entrance of the cave slowly closed. They walked along the inside of the cave. After walking for about 1 mile, their eyes suddenly opened up. This was a large underground cave. The inside of the cave was covered with dense vegetation. One could not see the end of it at a glance. On the surrounding rock walls, there were fist-sized luminous pearls. There were small holes above the cave and light penetrated through each small hole. Wang Daoyuan used his divine sense to explore a small hole, only to discover that there was a magic mirror in the cave. The grade was not high, only a low-grade first stage. This magic mirror could adjust its angle according to the position of the sun and the moon, reflecting the sunlight and moonlight into the cave. Although the grade of this magic mirror was low, it was not simple. With these magic mirrors and luminous pearls, this underground cave was not dark at all. There was also a high-grade second-stage spirit vein in the cave. Wang Daoyuan followed Zhou Xian out of the cave and into the cave. After careful observation, he discovered that there were dense array patterns on the surrounding rock walls. These array patterns should be a middle-grade second-stage array. The array patterns were relatively rough and had lost their function. This cave's owner's attainments in array formations had barely reached the mid-grade of the second level. This array should be able to block the leakage of spiritual energy, as well as have a defensive function. This cave was a bit like a medicine garden. The python in the cave should have crawled in through the small hole above the cave after the array had lost its effect. He quickly discovered a few stalks of golden silk grass on the ground. He immediately pulled them out and stored them in the spirit pearls space. The surrounding vegetation was mostly of first stage and did not have much value. Wang Daoyuan followed Zhou Xian's footsteps and carefully walked through the dense vegetation. They did not dare to extend their divine senses too far to avoid disturbing the second-stage demonic beast and causing a big commotion. The two of them only dared to use their divine senses to explore an area of about 200 feet. After going more than 1,000 feet deep, Wang Daoyuan saw a blood-red tree 20 feet away through the gaps in the vegetation. This blood dragon tree was more than 200 feet tall and had a thick trunk that required 2 people to wrap their arms around. Wang Daoyuan did not see where the python was. In order to avoid being detected by the middle-grade second-stage python, the two of them used the breath-concealing technique to restrain their aura and suppress their spiritual energy fluctuations. Zhou Xian did not dare to speak again. He transmitted his voice. "Huang Dao, the python is hiding on the blood dragon tree. You go and lure it out. I will prepare a spell here. As long as you lure that beast away from the blood dragon tree, you will be able to hold on for 20 breaths of time to prevent my spell from damaging the tree. Take down the python and dig out the blood dragon tree. Then we will leave this place." Wang Daoyuan also replied, "No problem." After saying that, he took out the inky gold sword from the space in the spiritual pearl and slowly moved forward. After more than 50 breaths of time, Wang Daoyuan moved to the vicinity of the blood dragon tree. He scanned the surroundings with his divine sense and did not find any demonic beasts. It seemed that the python's hiding ability was not weak. He did not let down his guard. Instead, he paid more attention to the python. He raised the inky gold sword and cut off a branch as thick as an arm from the blood dragon tree. He stored it in the spiritual pearl and handed it over to his doppelganger. His doppelganger cut off a small branch as thick as a finger and inserted it near the spiritual fire of life. Although the blood dragon tree could not be grown by cutting, with the vigorous vitality provided by the spiritual fire of life, there might be hope. Wang Daoyuan's divine sense was constantly monitoring the surrounding area of 300 feet. He did not want to be killed by the python in one strike. Suddenly, a blood-red python's head jumped out from the branches. It opened its bloody mouth and bit toward him. He waved the inky gold sword in his hand and chopped the side of the python's head. He also activated the swift art under his feet. Borrowing the force of the collision between the long sword and the python's head, he quickly flew to the right and narrowly avoided the python's attack. The inky gold sword was very sharp. The sword left a half-foot-long wound on the python's head. At this time, Wang Daoyuan felt that there was a violent fluctuation of spiritual power on Zhou Xian's side. He should be preparing a magic spell. Seeing that its attack had missed and that its head had been cut by the sword, the python would not give up. It came down from the blood dragon tree and crawled toward Wang Daoyuan. The python's body was blood red. On both sides of its back, there were clusters of obvious light-colored cloud patterns. Wang Daoyuan knew this python. It was called the blood-red cloud pattern python. The highest level it could cultivate to was the second rank upper grade. Chapter 220. The python was only 2 to 3 meters long and as thick as an adult's waist. Other demonic beasts of the first rank were at least 4 to 5 meters long. This python was quite small. Wang Daoyuan could not remember the blood cloud python's innate ability. It was probably to suck blood to strengthen its body. This kind of innate ability did not have much lethality, and it was only a second-rank demonic beast. If he did not want to expose his strength, he would have finished it off in a few moves. He could not use his family's magic, super powerful magic, or the 5-dragon soul-chasing whip. It would be a waste to use talismans. He could only use the inky gold sword to fight against the python. The blood cloud python's body was very strong. The inky gold sword was so sharp, but the wound was not even half an inch deep. The wound completely enraged it. It chased after Wang Daoyuan closely. It would not give up until it killed Wang Daoyuan. There were snake-type demonic beasts that were very fast, but most of the python-type demonic beasts were not known for their speed. Wang Daoyuan used the swift art with all his strength. The blood cloud python could not catch up with him at all. His goal was to stall the python so he would not leave it too far behind. When the python pounced forward, he sped up and widened the distance between them. When the distance between them increased, he slowed down and maintained a distance of more than 30 meters from the python. When the python wanted to give up, he turned around and threw a few spells like the golden saber technique to enrage it. The blood cloud python was flustered and exasperated. It used all its strength and jumped more than 60 meters away. This gave Wang Daoyuan a fright and he almost used cloud mist escape. He calmed down and used the earth escape technique to escape into the ground. Anyway, he only needed to stall for 20 seconds. That time was almost up. The python was already more than 300 meters away from the blood dragon wood. He did not have to worry about the wood being hit. Just as it was about to swallow the tiny human, he suddenly disappeared. At this time, Wang Daoyuan was more than 60 meters underground. At this depth, Foundation establishment cultivators with strong divine senses could still detect him with their divine senses. Most of the demonic beast's divine senses were far inferior to human cultivators of the same level, so they were unable to detect them. The python didn't sense Wang Daoyuan's aura anywhere else, so it angrily whipped the place where Wang Daoyuan disappeared with its tail. The soil and stones on the ground were sent flying in all directions, and a pit more than 10 feet deep was created on the ground. After Wang Daoyuan entered the ground, he immediately headed towards Zhou Xian. One must not have the intention to harm others, but one must always be on guard against others. He did not return to the ground immediately. Instead, he used his spiritual perception to observe Zhou Xian and the red blood cloud-striped python. This was to prevent Zhou Xian from casting the spell that he had prepared for 20 breaths of time on him. Fortunately, Zhou Xian did not attack him. Instead, he directed the spell at the blood cloud-striped python. A ball of red and yellow spiritual energy was condensed in his hands. Then he shot the ball of spiritual energy into the air. Flaming stones flew out of the spiritual power ball and hit the red cloud python under the control of his divine sense. The flaming stones flew at an extremely fast speed. They were not inferior to the earth divine thunder. The red blood cloud-striped python was known for its physical strength. In terms of speed, it was not strong. Could not dodge such a fast attack. The first flaming rock hit the blood-red cloud-striped python directly. Wang Daoyuan's spiritual perception had been paying attention to the man and the python. Naturally, he also detected the flaming stones. The power of this one stone was comparable to 3 of his earth divine thunders. Of course, if Zhou Xian were to face him head-on, he would not have the chance to finish accumulating power. He would be blasted into pieces by the earth divine thunder. The crimson cloud python's body was ridiculously strong. A flaming flying stone hit its waist. Although it was hit by the flaming stones, it did not suffer any fatal injuries. This was only the first flaming stone. There were still 5 more. The next 5 flaming stones were all aimed at the python's head. The python's waist was severely injured. Could not dodge at all. The 5 flaming flying stones landed steadily on the python's head. This was equivalent to 15 earth divine thunders hitting the same place. This power was not something a rank 2 demonic beast could withstand. No matter how strong the red blood cloud-striped python's body was, it could not withstand this attack. The remaining power of the flaming stones disappeared along with the python's head. A snake could not do without a head. The python's head was blown up by the flaming stones. No matter how strong it was, it could not do anything. After struggling for a while, the python's body fell to the ground powerlessly. Zhou Xian's spiritual power ball was completely exhausted. He ate a spiritual recovery pill and sat down to recover his spiritual power. When Wang Daoyuan came out from the ground, Zhou Xian was shocked. He was worried that Wang Daoyuan would sneak attack him. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Daoyuzhou, don't panic. I am not a person who will kill a donkey after it has outlived its usefulness. Don't worry. As long as Daoyu does not attack me, I will not attack Daoyu." Then he picked up the black gold sword and walked towards the blood dragon wood. He was not sure if there were any demonic beasts lying in ambush near the blood dragon wood. Naturally, he would not walk over easily. When he was about 10 feet away from the blood dragon wood, he controlled the flying sword to float in the air. Black sword chi flew out from the black gold sword and condensed into flying sword phantoms. It was the innumerable sword art that he seized from Wu Yi. He controlled the sword chi to attack the blood dragon wood and cut off all the branches. He put all the branches into the spiritual pearl space. Then he used the earth movement art to shake the earth and rocks around the roots of the blood dragon wood. When the earth and rocks were separated from the roots, he used the earth wall art to condense an earth and rock pillar to push the blood dragon wood out from the ground. He put the blood dragon wood into a spirit beast pouch. The blood dragon wood was heavy and exceeded the load limit of an ordinary storage pouch. Wang Daoyuan walked towards Zhou Xian and said, "To be honest, I know a cultivator from a clan. If I sell this blood dragon wood to him, I should be able to earn a lot of spirit stones. So I'll give Daoyu some spirit stones. How about you let me have this blood dragon wood?" Zhou Xian said, "Since Daoyu has connections, there's no harm in letting Daoyu have it." Wang Daoyuan took out 30 mid-grade spirit stones and said, "I'll compensate Daoyu with 3,000 spirit stones. What do you think of this?" Zhou Xian was overjoyed. If he sold this blood dragon wood to the forces of Shanbei, he could sell it for 5,000 spirit stones at most. If the two of them divided it equally, he would not get 3,000 spirit stones. Now Wang Daoyuan was giving him 3,000 spirit stones. Naturally, he had no objections. Wang Daoyuan handed him 30 mid-grade spirit stones, which he gladly accepted. The two of them stayed in the underground cave for an hour until Zhou Xian's spirit chi was almost recovered. Then they walked out of the underground cave. During this time, no other demonic beasts came. Wang Daoyuan obtained the urgently needed blood dragon wood, and Zhou Xian obtained 30 mid-grade spirit stones. The two of them each got what they wanted. Zhou Xian led the way out of the cave and returned to the small valley outside. Just as he left the cave, a giant sword shadow that was 20 to 30 feet long fell from the sky. The giant sword shadow was also extremely fast. After a big battle, Zhou Xian's spirit chi had recovered, and his mind was at its most relaxed state. This sword came so fast that he could not react at all. He was directly cut in half by this sword. Wang Daoyuan was also frightened by this sword and retreated into the cave, not daring to show his head. Wang Daoyuan also recognized this move. It was the sky-cleaving sword, the inheritance of the Beiyuan sword sect. He could also use the sky-cleaving sword, but its power could not be compared to this sword. To be able to use such a powerful sky-cleaving sword, this person was definitely a sword cultivator, and his cultivation was much higher than his. He did not have full confidence in defeating this kind of opponent. Moreover, sword cultivators were much faster than ordinary cultivators of the same level. Even if they could win, it would be difficult to keep the opponent. Chapter 221. Wang Daoyuan did not dare to show his face. An old voice came from outside. "Daoyu Huang, my Beiyuan sword sect is sincerely inviting you to join us. We have no ill intentions. As long as you are willing to join the Beiyuan sword sect, I can guarantee your safety." As expected, it was someone from the Beiyuan sword sect. He wanted to continue to fish for information, so he naturally would not walk out obediently. Wang Daoyuan pretended to be in disbelief. "Impossible. Zhou Daoyu and I took so many detours. How could you possibly keep up with us? The old voice laughed and said, how can you fool me with your little tricks? Outside the Huang's elixir shop we have people keeping watch. Zhou Xian secretly discussed some things with you. Although I do not know the details, I can use Zhou Xian to lure you out of the Guiyuan market. We investigated Zhou Xian and found out that he appeared in this area many times a few months ago. After the two of you left the Guiyuan market, I waited for you in this area. Speaking of which, the two of you are really bold. You flew here on your sword so openly. It would be hard for me not to see you. Dai, come out and join the Guiyuan sword sect. The sword sect will definitely not treat you unfairly. Wang Daoyuan continued, how do I know if you will kill me directly? Why don't you come in? I don't want to be killed by your sword like Zhou Daoyu. The old man promised. Daoyu is a third-level foundation establishment cultivator at such a young age. In the future he might be able to open his Violet Palace. He is also proficient in talismans and alchemy. His future is limitless. The Guiyuan sword sect has taken a liking to Daoyu's talent and wants to take Daoyu in. I am already so old, but I am only at the 6th level of foundation establishment. I am afraid that it will be difficult for me to advance any further. How can someone like me who has exhausted all of my potential be compared to Daoyu? If I hurt Daoyu, I am afraid that I will be severely punished when I return. If I kill Daoyu, not only will I not be able to keep my life, I will also implicate my family. As for entering the cave, I really do not dare to do so. Daoyu was proficient in the Tao of talismans and had many talismans in his possession. It's inconvenient to dodge in the cave. If I go in, I might not be a match for Daoyu. Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was both happy and worried. He was happy that this old man was only at the 6th level of foundation establishment, so he still had a chance to take him down. What he was worried about was that he was too cautious, so he didn't have a chance to make a move. If he took the initiative to attack, the possibility of instantly taking down a 6th level foundation establishment cultivator was not high. This old man's cultivation level was 3 levels higher than his, and he was also a sword cultivator. The speed of his sword manipulation was definitely not something he could compare to. If his attack failed, he would immediately flee and he would no longer have a chance to capture him. If he exposed his trump card and let this old man escape, then he would suffer a great loss. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, since Daoyu doesn't want to come in, then I'll go out through another exit. Goodbye. After he finished speaking, he used his spiritual power to pull Zhou Xian's corpse over and stored it in the spirit pearl's space. After that, he walked into the depths of the cave. This made the old man outside anxious. He wasn't sure if there were any other exits in the cave. If one of them ran away, wouldn't it be a complete loss? If he lost his merit, he might even be punished when he returned. However, if he chased after a person covered in talismans and fought in a narrow space, it would be too dangerous. When he landed in front of the cave, he used his spiritual sense to investigate inside, but he didn't find Wang Daoyuan's figure. He was a little anxious. He didn't dare to let Wang Daoyuan escape like this. Helpless, he could only follow into the cave. However, he was very cautious. He constantly probed forward with his spiritual sense to prevent a sneak attack. Wang Daoyuan didn't want to sneak attack him in the cave. Instead, he wanted to lure him into the underground cave. If he defeated him in the underground cave, it would be very difficult for him to escape with his cloud mist escape. The cave was narrow and he couldn't fly with his sword manipulation. Wang Daoyuan waited for the old man at the place where the blood dragon wood was. After the old man entered the underground cave, his face was full of joy when he saw the scenery in front of him. This was an excellent secret cultivation base. If he reported this to the sect master, he would get a lot of rewards. However, he didn't relax his vigilance. He expanded the range of his spiritual sense to the maximum and carefully searched for Wang Daoyuan's hiding place. Wang Daoyuan stood there waiting for him. He soon arrived in front of Wang Daoyuan. The old man smiled and said, "Daoyu Huang, come back with me." Since this old man had followed him in, it would be difficult for him to leave. Wang Daoyuan didn't bother to talk nonsense with him. He directly took out the 5 dragons soul-chasing whip and lashed it out. The old man was prepared. He waved the long sword in his hand and a sword chi shot out, blocking the chi from the whip. Wang Daoyuan continued to wave the whip and hit out chi. The old man also quickly waved his sword and used the sword chi to cut all the chi. Wang Daoyuan was a little surprised. This time he had encountered a tough opponent. The speed of the old man's sword was not slower than his whip. Moreover, the old man looked at ease and seemed to be able to be faster. The old man smiled and said, "Dao Yu Huang, you're very capable. I thought you were only good at talismans, but I didn't expect your whip technique to be so powerful. If we fight at the same level, I'm really not your opponent. I haven't been able to make progress in my cultivation for many years, so I can only focus on improving my fighting ability. Dao Yu Huang is a genius, but you're still a little bit lacking if you want to beat me." Wang Daoyuan injected his spiritual power into the whip and wanted to use the 5 elements to defeat the enemy in one blow. The old man was also very experienced. His spiritual sense found that the spiritual power in his hand was fluctuating violently and knew that he was going to use his unique skill. The old man held his sword with both hands. He closed his eyes, held his breath, and concentrated. Violent spiritual power fluctuations appeared on his sword. Wang Daoyuan lashed out with his whip and the qi went straight for the old man. The old man suddenly opened his eyes and his eyes shone brightly. The spiritual power on his sword quickly exploded and a huge sword illusion appeared. He waved his sword and the huge sword illusion slashed down at Wang Daoyuan. The qi of the 5 elements collided with the huge sword. Wang Daoyuan quickly detonated the qi, wanting to break the huge sword. Unfortunately, the huge sword only dimmed a little after withstanding the power of the explosion. It continued to slash at Wang Daoyuan. It seemed that when the old man killed Zhou Xian, he was afraid that he would accidentally injure him and showed mercy. He only attacked with all his strength after he had displayed enough strength. The remaining power of the huge sword illusion was enough to kill him. It was too late to dodge with the swift art. Helpless, he could only use the cloud mist escape to barely dodge the sword. The huge sword slashed the ground and left a deep trench that was 30 feet long, 10 feet wide, and 3 feet deep. After half a breath, Wang Daoyuan's figure appeared 40 feet to the right of his original spot. Seeing the power of the sword, he still had lingering fear. This old man was so strong that his 5-dragon soul-chasing whip was useless against him. The old man saw that he was unharmed and let out a sigh of relief. "This seems to be Marquis Yuchuan's cloud mist escape. Dao, you are from the Yuchuan Wang family?" Wang Daoyuan smiled. "I am Wang Daoyuan, an old servant of the Zhao family. I did not want to be enemies with the Beiyuan sword sect. Why are you forcing me?" The old man cupped his hands. "So you are the descendant of Marquis Yuchuan. It's just that the Wang family has already submitted to the Netherworld sect. As long as the Wang family can abandon the darkness and join the light, everything will be fine." Wang Daoyuan said disdainfully, "The Beiyuan sword sect is just a clown. Compared to Green Willow Province's Sure family, this 10,000-year-old noble family, they are far inferior. I really don't know why that brat surnamed Zhao would choose to stay in the Beiyuan sword sect." Hearing his words, the old man had a look of astonishment. Wang Daoyuan said this to distract the old man. He took the opportunity to fire out 3 earth divine lightnings in a row. By the time the old man reacted, the earth divine lightnings were only around 100 feet away from him. At such a close distance without a brilliant escape art, there was no way to dodge all of them. Chapter 222. The sword in the old man's hand shone brightly as he dodged to the side. His battle experience was too rich. If he kept dodging and casting defensive spells, he would only be hit by 1 earth divine thunder. Wang Daoyuan was not idle either. He predicted where the old man would land and continued to cast earth divine lightning. Just as the earth divine lightning was about to hit him, the image of a shield appeared on the sword in his hand. 2 earth divine thunders were dodged by him, but one of them hit the shield shadow, producing a muffled thunder-like sound. The old man was pushed back several feet by the explosive force of the earth divine lightning. The earth divine lightning's spiritual energy spread in all directions, and the old man was not enveloped by the earth elemental spiritual energy. Just as the old man landed, 3 more earth divine lightning bolts arrived. 3 muffled sounds of thunder could be heard. One had to admit that his shield was not weak. It took 4 earth divine lightning bolts head-on and did not shatter. However, the earth elemental spiritual energy from the 3 earth divine lightning bolts carried the corrosive power of the dust-returning flame. Wang Daoyuan would not let go of this opportunity to beat the old man while he was surrounded by earth elemental spiritual energy. He cast 3 more earth divine lightning bolts. At this moment, a violent spiritual energy fluctuation appeared on the old man's body. Then a gust of wind appeared out of nowhere and blew away the earth elemental spiritual energy around him. 3 more earth divine lightning bolts flew in front of the old man. He did not have time to dodge. With a cracking sound, the shadow shield was shattered by the earth divine thunder. The old man let out a muffled groan and was sent flying several feet away. When he landed, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Wang Daoyuan let out a sigh of relief. This old man could not take it anymore. He cast the earth divine lightning as fast as he could. His spiritual energy and divine sense were both under great pressure. The old man panted for a long time and said angrily, "This spiritual energy is corrosive. It is definitely not the earth divine lightning. I did not expect the Yuchuan Marquis to have such a despicable descendant." Wang Daoyuan said disdainfully, "Your Guiyuan sword sect is already in the flesh business, and you still have the face to call me despicable? The Guiyuan sword sect used its power to bully others and force me to be your slave. Can you be considered as being open and above board?" The old man was so angry that he couldn't speak. He coughed a few times and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Wang Daoyuan thought that victory was in his grasp, but the old man's eyes suddenly lit up. He waved the sword in his hand and in a breath's time, dozens of sword phantoms appeared out of thin air. The casting speed of the myriad sword art had already reached such a level. Dozens of long sword phantoms flew towards Wang Daoyuan. He immediately used smoke escape to dodge the long sword phantoms' attacks. Then he immediately used the golden rock wrestling dragon technique to form the golden rock's shadow. However, the speed at which the golden rock's shadow was condensed was still too slow. Only after using the cloud mist escape 3 times in a row and dodging the attacks of the long sword phantoms did he succeed in condensing the golden rock phantoms. Hundreds of feather blades were shot out and all the sword phantoms were destroyed. The old man held the sword with both hands and a determined look appeared on his face. In just 2 breaths' time he had condensed a sky-cleaving sword that was more than 300 feet long. This time the sky-cleaving sword didn't directly slash down. Instead it swept towards Wang Daoyuan. The distance between the two of them was only 60 feet. This old man was a true sword cultivator. He had already mastered all the spells of the Guiyuan sword sect to the point of perfection. When he used them he didn't adhere to any form and could do as he pleased. He had played a psychological attack but he was still forced to this extent. This sword was sweeping towards him. The cloud mist escape couldn't dodge it at all. He could only dodge to the side of the giant sword phantoms or behind the old man. However, the speed of the sky-cleaving sword was too fast. He couldn't dodge it even with the cloud mist escape. Helpless, he could only take this sword head-on. He divided his attention into 2 tasks. He controlled the golden rock phantoms to release all the feather blades towards the giant sword phantoms. Then the golden rock phantoms also pounced over. At the same time he used the cloud mist escape and rushed to the old man's side. Both the feather blades and the golden rock phantoms collided with the giant sword. The giant sword phantoms weren't directly shattered. However, the giant sword phantoms also became very dim. They didn't even have 10% of their previous power. In addition, the giant sword phantoms also paused for a moment. This gave Wang Daoyuan a chance. He successfully escaped to the old man's side before the sky-cleaving sword arrived. At this moment the distance between the two of them was less than 10 feet. The old man's attention was all on the sky-cleaving sword. He couldn't react at all when Wang Daoyuan suddenly rushed over. At this moment, the soul-chasing bell had already appeared beside Wang Daoyuan. A deep bell sound rang out. The giant sword phantoms dissipated, and the resolute expression on the old man's face slowly disappeared. Then he closed his eyes and collapsed to the ground. Within 10 feet, even a late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator's soul would be severely injured after being shaken by the soul-chasing bell. Moreover, this old man was only at the 6th level of the Foundation establishment realm. Wang Daoyuan let out a long sigh of relief. The enemy this time was really too dangerous. He had used all of his powerful trump cards and even used a psychological attack to barely defeat him. During the battle, if there was even the slightest mistake, he might have lost his life. At this moment the old man's soul was only severely injured. He wasn't dead yet. He used the soul-splitting blade and directly attacked the old man's sea of consciousness. The old man's soul was already severely injured. He was unable to resist the soul-splitting blade and was directly scattered. This place wasn't necessarily safe. Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to use his soul-splitting blade here. He took out the soul-splitting blade from Qi Yun's clone. He didn't merge it with his main soul. Instead, he directly injected it into the old man's sea of consciousness. The soul-splitting blade's divine sense power helped the old man's scattered soul to reform it with the soul-splitting blade as the center. After doing all this, he put the old man into the spiritual pearls space. This old man was a true sword cultivator, especially his last attack, which displayed the fearlessness of a sword cultivator and the might of a sword that could break all techniques. It was a pity that he had entered the den of thieves like the Beiyuan sword sect. It was a waste of this person. Wang Daoyuan still admired this old man. Everyone who was fearless and firm in their beliefs was worthy of admiration. However, everyone had their own choices. Wang Daoyuan wouldn't give up the opportunity to spy on the secrets of the Beiyuan sword sect just because he admired him. These secrets didn't just include the inheritance of the Beiyuan sword sect. They could also be related to the survival of his clan. To him, his personal path and the safety of his family and clan were the most important things. For these, nothing else mattered. Wang Daoyuan released the soul-chasing bees to search the underground cave to see what was inside. He went to the entrance of the cave and repaired the array that isolated the spirit qi. Currently, only he knew the exact location of this underground cave. As long as he repaired the array, the spirit qi wouldn't leak out and the entrance would be well hidden. Unfortunately, the location of this underground cave wasn't very good. It was too far away from the clan and there wasn't much room for expansion. The clan's losses outweighed the gains by operating this place. No matter how good this underground cave was, it could only be used as a place to rest. Although there were various types of spirit plants here, it was a valuable asset to most cultivators. However, to Wang Daoyuan it wasn't worth mentioning. This underground cave couldn't be compared to the space in the spirit pearl. Furthermore, he couldn't take it with him. He only wanted to search this place. However, he didn't need it and couldn't leave it for others. The people of the Beiyuan sword sect already knew that Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Xian would come to this area. However, the others didn't know the exact location of this underground cave. The old man had been refined into a clone. Although the soul lamp he left in the Beiyuan sword sect wouldn't extinguish, if he didn't return for a long time, it would still arouse the suspicions of the Beiyuan sword sect. If he didn't set it up properly, it wouldn't be difficult for the Beiyuan sword sect to find the cave when they sent people to search. The more resources these bastards had, the faster they could cultivate cannon fodder and the earlier they could act. This was extremely disadvantageous to the Wang clan. Not only was it difficult to destroy all the spirit plants here, it would also cause a huge commotion. Before they could destroy everything, they might be discovered by the Beiyuan sword sect. It was better to hide this place. Chapter 223. The soul-chasing bees quickly searched the entire underground cave and only found a few snake-type demonic beasts. They should have come in through the illumination holes. The entire underground cave was around 5 kilometers long and 1 kilometer wide. Apart from various spirit plants and a few pythons, there were no other demonic beasts. Wang Daoyuan originally thought that this was some senior expert's abode. He didn't expect that it was just a medicinal garden. Moreover, it was a medicinal garden of a rogue cultivator. If it was a medicinal garden of a faction, the surrounding formations wouldn't be so crude. However, the location of this medicinal garden was too good. It seemed to be built on the foundation of a natural underground cave. With just a few simple formations, the entire medicinal garden was hidden without a trace. If it wasn't for the fact that the person who carved the formations was too weak, causing the formations to fail, Zhou Xian probably wouldn't have discovered this medicinal garden. The isolation formation at the entrance of the cave was still functioning normally. There were only a few minor problems and it was very easy to repair. After repairing the formation at the entrance, he didn't have to worry about being discovered for the time being. The remaining pythons in the medicinal garden weren't of a high grade. If he went all out, none of them would be able to last more than 10 breaths of time. After cleaning up the demonic beasts, he began to search the underground medicinal garden for spirit plants. Although this medicinal garden was large and there were many types of spirit plants, the majority of them were spirit plants that weren't of a grade. The remaining spirit plants were mainly grade 1 and grade 2 spirit plants. He only found a dozen or so spirit plants that he needed. Among them were a few supplementary herbs for refining the Meridian Shield pill. The rest were spirit plants for refining the violet rhythm pill. The violet rhythm pill was a medicinal pill used by Zifu realm cultivators to increase their cultivation. It had the same effect as the spirit gathering pill and the spirit condensing pill. However, the main ingredient of the violet rhythm pill was extremely rare, causing the violet rhythm pill to be very precious. The most important ingredient of the violet rhythm pill was the violet dragon pattern ginseng. Only 1,000-year-old violet dragon pattern ginseng could be used to refine the violet rhythm pill. In addition, the other main ingredients and supplementary herbs were also very old. It was very difficult for most Zifu realm cultivators to obtain the violet rhythm pill. Wang Daoyuan could be considered to have run into great luck. In this underground medicinal garden he found several violet dragon pattern ginseng seedlings. To others this seedling was not of much use, but to Wang Daoyuan, it was a treasure. Very few forces were willing to plant the purple dragon pattern ginseng. After all, although the purple dragon pattern ginseng was rare, it wasn't that precious. Letting the purple dragon pattern ginseng occupy the grade 3 spiritual field for 1,000 years was not worth it. Therefore it was almost impossible to find a purple rhythm pill on the market. He had already found the rarest purple cloud dragon king ginseng, so the other spirit herbs were not too rare. It would not be difficult to gather them all. In the space of the spirit pearl, the clone also found something good in Zhou Xian's storage bag. When Zhou Xian was traveling, he'd once explored the place of death of a Violet Palace realm cultivator and obtained the inheritance of that Violet Palace realm cultivator. He had obtained a Violet Palace disciple technique and a third-tier spell. This Violet Palace realm cultivation technique was called the Falling Star Incantation, and it could be cultivated to the late Violet Palace realm. The Falling Star Incantation was a dual attribute cultivation method of fire and earth. Moreover, fire and earth were both primary and secondary. Anyone with a stronger spiritual root could cultivate it. The third-tier spell was called the Meteor Fall Art. It was the same spell that Zhou Xian had used to kill the Scarlet Cloud Pattern Python. There were two ways to use this spell. The first way required one to accumulate spiritual energy, which was the method that Zhou Xian had used. The other way was to condense a meteor to attack the enemy. It did not have the power of consecutive attacks, but it could be used quickly. When the Meteor Fall Art was cultivated to the peak, the power of a single meteor would be comparable to the fourth stage of the Earth Divine Lightning. However, it would be difficult for Wang Daoyuan to cultivate it to that level. After all, it was impossible for him to cultivate the Falling Star Incantation. If he didn't cultivate the Falling Star Incantation, the power of the Meteor Fall Art would be greatly reduced. When he cultivated it to the peak, it would only be comparable to the third stage of the Earth Divine Lightning. If he used it quickly, he would be able to condense it in half a breath. It was much faster than most spells of the same grade, but it was still far from the Earth Divine Lightning. Apart from that, he also obtained Zhou Xian's intermediate grade fiery long sword, the Parting Flame Sword. Within the space of the Spirit Pearl, the Split Soul had successfully taken control of the Split Soul. It began to pry into the old man's memories. This person was called Li Qingchuan. He was not from the Beiyuan sword sect's main family. He was originally a wandering cultivator. When he was young, he was surrounded by cultivators who wanted to steal his treasures. He was saved by the Beiyuan sword sect's sect leader, Li Qingyuan, who happened to be passing by. Li Qingyuan treated him well and taught him the Beiyuan sword sect's cultivation techniques and spells. For many years, Li Qingchuan had been the leader of the Li family's secret forces, doing the dirty work for the Beiyuan sword sect. After all, he was not from the Li family, and the cultivation technique that he cultivated was not the Beiyuan sword manual that was passed down in the Li family. In addition, he was not very talented. When he cultivated to the 6th stage of the Foundation Establishment realm, his potential was basically exhausted. For many years he could not improve his cultivation. Therefore, he did not pursue a higher level of cultivation and focused all his attention on the path of the sword. Although the cultivation technique that he cultivated was not passed down in the Li family, he still knew the sword manipulation technique of the Beiyuan sword sect. This was the most valuable thing to Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan knew in his heart that with his personality, the path of the sword was definitely not reliable. To walk the path of the sword, one must first focus on the sword and not be influenced by external forces. One must also be fearless and have the belief that one sword can break all techniques. He did not have any of these conditions. It was impossible to be fearless. If one did not run when facing an opponent that they could not defeat, that would be the behavior of a fool. As for breaking all techniques with one sword, he did not believe in it at all. There were thousands of Daos and none of them could be invincible or flawless. On the path of cultivation, Wang Daoyuan was particular about practicality. He would use whatever was useful. As long as it did not go against his principles, he could do anything. No matter who his opponent was or what path they took, he could defeat them through means that countered them. The cultivation technique that Li Qingchuan cultivated was not an orthodox one. It was just a common foundation establishment technique and was not very useful. The sword manipulation technique was the Guiyuan sword technique of the Guiyuan sword sect, and was no different from what the Li family's direct descendants cultivated. This sword manipulation technique was much more advanced than the sword manipulation technique of the Wang family. With the Guiyuan sword technique, not to mention the use of sword cultivation techniques, just the power of sword kinesis flight and the speed of sword kinesis flight would be incomparable. Li Qingchuan also cultivated a few of the stronger sword manipulation techniques of the Guiyuan sword sect, such as the 10,000 sword technique and the heaven-cleaving sword, to the point where he could use them as he pleased. The shadow of the shield that he used to withstand the 7 earth divine thunderbolts was called the Black Tortoise Sword Shield. It was a rare defensive technique among the sword manipulation techniques. However, Li Jianfeng's younger brother did not know the defensive technique that he used to protect himself from the aftershocks of the explosion after his clash with Wang Daoyuan. It seemed that this was a core technique of the Guiyuan sword sect, and an outsider like Li Qingchuan had no right to learn it. Finally, there was Li Qingchuan's Dharma treasure longsword. It was an upper-grade level 2 metal elemental Dharma treasure called the Golden Edge Sword. The Golden Edge Sword was a Dharma treasure produced by the Guiyuan sword sect. It was not considered strong among Dharma treasures of the same level, but it was not weak either. With so many gains, Wang Daoyuan could not help but exclaim, "It's still better to be a treasure-hunting cultivator." As the leader of the Guiyuan sword sect's secret forces, Li Qingchuan knew many of the Li family's secrets. However, Wang Daoyuan had already deduced most of the Zhao family's secrets. As for the other trivial secrets, they were not of much use to him. The Guiyuan sword sect was indeed accumulating strength in secret, grooming cannon fodder to stir up trouble. This plan was indeed started more than 30 years ago and it was beginning to show results. However, the cultivators groomed were not very strong, and there were very few foundation establishment cultivators. The Guiyuan sword sect did have a secret channel to obtain all kinds of spiritual herbs. However, only the sword sect leader Li Qingyun knew the details of this channel. Every time, someone would deliver the spiritual herbs, and the Guiyuan sword sect did not need to send people to collect them. This channel provided a lot of spiritual herbs. The Guiyuan sword sect forcefully recruited 5 level 2 alchemists, forcing them to refine pills with all their might, but it still resulted in a backlog of spiritual herbs. Wang Daoyuan's previous estimate was too conservative. The Guiyuan sword sect's source of spiritual herbs had at least 3,000 mu of level 2 spiritual fields. In addition to level 1 spiritual fields, the total amount of spiritual fields could exceed 10,000 mu. Furthermore, there was also the matter of that young Master Zhao. Young Master Zhao was the great-grandson of Emperor Lai Zhao, and could be considered Zhao Liang's younger cousin. Chapter 224. Zhao Liang's grandfather was the eldest son of the Lai Emperor, and Zhao Liang's grandfather was the 6th son of the Lai Emperor. After Zhao Liang married into the Wang family, Wang Daoyuan also asked him how the Zhao royal family was defeated by the 3 major sects when they were so powerful. The power left behind by the eldest son of the Lai Emperor was completely gone, and no one would support Zhao Liang anymore. Instead, there would be people who wanted to kill him or use him as a cover. Zhao Liang naturally didn't want to get involved in the affairs of the Zhao royal family. He just wanted to be an ordinary member of the Wang family. Therefore, he didn't take the Zhao royal family's secrets seriously. When Wang Daoyuan asked, he told him everything that happened in the past. Back then there was a beast tide in the sky/mountain range. More than 90% of the Zhao royal family's experts were sent to the sky/mountain range to defend against the beast tide. Although the beast tide was defeated, the Zhao royal family's experts suffered great losses. More than 60% of the Golden Core cultivators and 70% of the Violet Palace cultivators were lost. More than half of the Golden Core and Violet Palace cultivators of the other affiliated families were also killed. The three great sects took this opportunity to collude with some ambitious nobles and attacked the capital of the Zhou royal family. There were too few people left behind to guard the Zhou family. The three sects, with the help of spies, successfully took over the capital of the Zhou country, destroyed the Zhou family's nest, and killed all the masters of the Zhou family who stayed behind. Even the Lai Emperor died in battle, and only a few Violet Palace cultivators managed to escape. Although the Zhou royal family lost a lot of experts, the remaining members and affiliated families were still more powerful than the three great sects. As long as the Zhou royal family's experts and affiliated families were united, they could destroy the three great sects. But the problem was who would become the emperor of the Zhou royal family? The Lai Emperor had many sons, and three of them had the ability to compete for the throne. They were the first prince, the sixth prince, and the ninth prince. The first prince was meticulous, well-versed in politics, and had a broad mind. He had great foresight and a good reputation. Plus, he was the eldest son, making him the best candidate for the throne. But the first prince also had two major flaws. One was that his mother didn't have a good background, and the other was that his cultivation talent wasn't good. Although the first prince's mother was the Lai Emperor's empress, she was a rogue cultivator and didn't have any family's power. The first prince's cultivation talent was actually considered to be above average. For an ordinary faction, it would not be a problem for him to become the successor. However, how could the Zhou royal family be an ordinary power? Just superior talent was not enough to convince everyone. Most importantly, the first prince did not have a water spiritual root. The Zhou clan's direct descendant inheritance was a water attribute cultivation technique, and their trump card was the blooming water divine thunder. The first prince was unable to cultivate his family's lineage, and most of the people in the royal family did not support him. The sixth prince, on the other hand, happened to have an extremely high water attribute spiritual root. It was said that it was very close to the celestial spiritual root. Cultivating the Zhou clan's direct descendant inheritance, his cultivation improved very quickly, and his attainments in the blooming water divine thunder were also very high. Most of the experts of the Zhou royal family supported the sixth prince. However, the sixth prince was sinister, vicious, and short-sighted. Most of the forces outside the royal family looked down on him. The ninth prince was a low-key person. He did not reveal anything, but he was very capable and experienced in doing things. His main spiritual root was also a water spiritual root. Although his talent was not as good as the sixth prince's, he was better than the eldest prince's. Most importantly, the ninth prince's mother's family was the Xianxia clan, the founding family of the country. They were extremely powerful. Back then, the Zhou clan's forces were divided into three major factions. The first prince received the support of most of the small and medium forces, as well as a small portion of the royal family forces. Although the Wang clan did not choose a side, they had the best relationship with the first prince. The sixth prince received the support of most of the royal family forces, as well as the support of a small number of opportunistic forces. For example, the Beiyuan sword sect's territory was not far from the Wang clans. They were suppressed by the Wang clan, so they supported the sixth prince and wanted to become an official of the emperor, using this opportunity to suppress the Wang clan. The ninth prince relied on his mother's connections to receive the support of most of the high-ranking nobles. Emperor Zhou Lai had died in battle. If the three major factions worked together, defeating the three major sects would not be a problem. However, the three major factions all wanted to push the princes they supported onto the throne, so they did not cooperate with each other. Fortunately, the three princes were not completely stupid. They did not rashly proclaim themselves as emperors, thus avoiding internal conflict. The three major factions each occupied a region. The three major sects would not be idle. They gathered their forces and dealt with the first prince's faction first. Although the first prince did not receive the support of the main family and the high-ranking nobles, he had the highest reputation and the support of many small and medium forces. His supporters gathered all their forces and were the strongest of the three major factions. Furthermore, the first prince publicly promised that after destroying the three major sects to avenge his father, he would immediately give the throne to his two younger brothers, who had contributed the most. The insightful people among the supporters of the other two princes also started to persuade the other two factions to support the first prince. More and more people in the royal family supported the first prince. If this continued, the three princes' forces might reach an agreement. At that time, the three major sects would be finished. In order to eliminate this greatest threat, the three major sects gathered their forces and attacked the first prince first. At this time, the weakness of the first prince's faction was revealed. His supporters were too scattered and he lacked top-notch experts. The sixth prince's faction was the closest, but they could only watch from the sidelines. The first prince's forces were too weak and were quickly defeated. Many experts heard the news and went to help. Even the Wang clan's ancestor went to rescue him. He killed the Golden Core elder of the Cruel Sun Palace who came to stop him. But the rescue was not in time and the first prince died in battle. After the first prince's death, some of his forces turned to the other two princes and some continued to follow the first prince's son. But even more forces were disappointed in the Zhou clan and directly surrendered to the three major sections. After this battle, the Zhou clan's forces no longer had much of an advantage over the three major sections. Without the first prince, the sixth prince and the ninth prince did not have enough prestige. No one could convince everyone and the state of Zhou lost its last chance to quell the rebellion of the three major sections. In the end, the first prince's forces were scattered and only his grandson Zhao Liang was left. The sixth prince was the second to be attacked. But the sixth prince was too useless and only wanted to protect himself. He had the support of Lord Waterfront and finally retreated to the waterfront state with his loyal subordinates. During the retreat, the late-stage Golden Core Grand Elder of the Cruel Sun Palace chased after him with a dozen Golden Core cultivators. The Wang clan's ancestor Wang Qingzu and a few Golden Core cultivators went to protect the sixth prince. With his mid-stage Golden Core cultivation, Wang Qingzu used the 10,000 Dragon Sea Turner to kill the Grand Elder of the Cruel Sun Palace. The Golden Core cultivators of the three major sects were scared out of their wits and no one dared to fight with him. That was why the sixth prince was able to escape. After the sixth prince fled to the waterfront state, the remaining forces of the Zhou clan followed the ninth prince. The ninth prince also displayed his outstanding ability and commanded the remaining forces to fight the three major sections. After the first prince's death, the Zhou clan's strength was no longer great. After the sixth prince was defeated, he took another group of experts with him. At this time, the ninth prince's forces were far inferior to the combined forces of the three major sections. Even so, the ninth prince still managed to gather a powerful force. After fighting with the three major sects for more than 20 years, he killed several Golden Core cultivators, dozens of Violet Palace Realm cultivators and hundreds of Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators and dealt a heavy blow to the three major sections. Until now, the three major sects had not been able to restore their high-end combat power to the level they had before the war. The forces that supported the ninth prince were also wiped out and even the Wang clan's ancestor died in battle. The remaining few escaped to various dangerous places and hid. The Green Willow State was one of the gathering places of the ninth prince's remaining forces. However, there was no news of the ninth prince's death. He was very likely still alive. The worst was the first prince's bloodline Zhao Liang. The ninth prince's bloodline could not be completely wiped out. Chapter 225. Since the ninth prince's bloodline was still there, the Shi family must still be loyal to the ninth prince. Since Shi Xinghua came to Shanbei, it meant that the sixth prince and the ninth prince had reached an agreement. If the two families wanted to work together, Lord Lin Hai's bloodline would definitely be involved. The sixth prince's bloodline had preserved the most strength, so the sixth prince should be the leader. Lord Lin Hai had developed in Lin Hai State for nearly 10,000 years, so it was hard to say how much strength he had. In addition, the sixth prince had taken away a few Jindan stage experts from his own family. Together with the ninth prince, their strength was not necessarily inferior to the Netherworld sect. However, Wang Daoyuan did not think highly of the sixth prince's bloodline. Back then, the sixth prince was the most useless. He had the most Jindan stage experts under his command, but he was the worst at fighting, the most cowardly and the worst in character. Now he did not even look for a partner but actually found a force like the Beiyuan sword sect. Sword cultivators were not good at scheming. What kind of tricks could they play if they were asked to do such a secret thing? In order to accumulate strength, the the Beiyuan sword sect's performance was too abnormal. They even opened brothels. In addition, they recruited rogue cultivators and forced rogue cultivators who were good at cultivation to join the sect. This kind of behavior was only normal when the sect was facing a great enemy or a disaster. Although the Beiyuan sword sect was not very strong, they did not have a great enemy forcing them, nor were they in a very big crisis. Doing something against common sense in such a brazen manner was telling other forces that they were going to cause trouble. He could find clues in such a short time, so the local forces would not be unaware of the abnormality. The Netherworld sect did not lack smart people. As the second largest force around the Guiyan market, how could they not have their own intelligence network? The situation of the Beiyuan sword sect might have already been under the control of the Netherworld sect. The Netherworld sect did not pull in the net, probably to lure out the Zhou family and then catch them in one fell swoop. The Green Willow state was better hidden. On the surface, the Foundation establishment cultivators of the Green Willow state all had their own forces. But when they joined together, they still fought with each other. The Shi family was only one of the stronger ones. Moreover, the ninth prince's bloodline, after being defeated, never showed their face again. The Foundation establishment cultivators of the Green Willow state only wanted to develop their own strength, and there was nothing unusual. The outside world had always thought that Shi Zhenbong snatched the Foundation establishment pill to make a name for himself so that he could increase his family's strength. Shi Zhenbong wanted to increase his family's strength and eventually control the entire Green Willow region. At most, he would just be disgusted by Qingli City Square. If he had not seen Shi Xinghua come to the Beiyuan sword sect, he would not have thought that Green Willow province was planning such a big thing. The ninth prince's bloodline knew how to be patient, and their performance in history was also very good. Wang Daoyuan favored the ninth prince's bloodline more. The sixth prince was not someone who could accomplish great things. Even if he stood out, he would be dealt with by the Netherworld sect. They would not help either side and just watch the show. Unless the sixth prince could really display his invincible might and beat up the Underworld sect and the other two sects, the Wang clan would only stand on his side. Wang Daoyuan transplanted some of the spiritual herbs he needed from the underground herb garden into the spiritual pearls space. As for some valuable spirit plants that weren't in urgent need, he would collect their seeds and keep them. He could hand them over to his family in the future. Moreover, he might be able to use it in the future if he kept it. Just like the sawtooth vine from before, there was no harm in being prepared. Li Qingchuan had come to capture him and was waiting for him to come. It was normal that he would not return for a while. The Beiyuan sword sect would not send anyone to search for him either. Therefore, this place was still safe for the time being. To be safe, he repaired all the defensive arrays in the herb garden and improved them. Not only did he restore the arrays' functions, but they were even stronger. After repairing the arrays, he connected the arrays to the spirit vein. Afterward, he also practiced the meteor fall technique that Zhou Xian had left behind. It took him a little more than a day to reach the beginner level. Now, when he used the meteor fall technique, he needed 3 to 4 breaths of time to shoot out a meteorite. Its power was far inferior to the earth divine lightning. However, it did not matter. It was mainly used to scare people. If he really met someone difficult to deal with, he could either run or use the earth divine lightning. Next, he also practiced the Beiyuan sword sect's sword manipulation technique, the Beiyuan sword technique, and the black tortoise sword shield. He practiced more spells so that when he faced an enemy, he could defeat them without using his trump cards. If he provoked an expert, he could also cause some trouble for the Beiyuan sword sect. It had to be said that the true power of a sword cultivator's spells could only be unleashed when combined with the unique sword manipulation technique. He used 2 days to reach the beginner level of the Beiyuan sword technique. The power of the 10,000 sword technique in Heaven Cleaving Sword was more than twice as strong as before. They were no weaker than Li Jianfeng's brother. Wang Daoyuan cultivated in the underground herb garden for a while before leaving. After he exited the cave, he closed the giant rock in front of the cave. Then he used the earth wall technique to stick the stone door and the mountain together. He even sealed the mechanism to open the door. Next, he would go to the Xianyin River to collect purine qi. However, he could not leave so easily. Otherwise, if Li Qingchuan did not return for a long time, the Beiyuan sword sect would thoroughly search this area. The underground herb garden might also be discovered. It was better to put on a show and divert the Beiyuan sword sect's attention elsewhere. He released his clone Li Qingchuan from the space. He dressed as an independent cultivator and wore a veil and a bamboo hat. The two of them hid their figures and traveled 200 miles to the west. Then they flew on their swords. Wang Daoyuan flew in front on his sword and pretended to be in a hurry to escape. Li Qingchuan's doppelganger, on the other hand, was like a cat toying with a mouse, following behind at a leisurely pace while shouting, "Fellow Taoist Huang, you won't be able to escape. Just come back with me. This old man guarantees that he won't mistreat you." Wang Daoyuan scolded angrily, "Bullsh*t, you want me to be your slave? I won't fall for it." Li Qingchuan was faster on his sword and could quickly catch up with him. Every time Li Qingchuan caught up, he would turn around and throw a few talismans to repel Li Qingchuan. After repeating this dozens of times, the two of them flew more than 3,000 miles. Wang Daoyuan shouted along the way, "The Guiyuan sword sect captured alchemists and talisman masters and imprisoned them to help them refine pills. All alchemists and talisman masters are traveling together. If you see anyone from the Guiyuan sword sect, run away immediately." When they encountered cultivators passing by, Li Qingchuan even threatened them, "The Guiyuan sword sect is handling matters. If you're afraid of death, get out of the way." After that, he also used the myriad sword art or the sky-cleaving sword to attack Wang Daoyuan. In this way, the scandal of the Guiyuan sword sect would quickly spread throughout the north of the mountain. It would be difficult to trick alchemists again. The other forces that were not on good terms with the Guiyuan sword sect would not let go of this opportunity. They would definitely use this opportunity to annoy the Guiyuan sword sect. This would also create some trouble for the Guiyuan sword sect so that they would not have the energy to chase after him. Along the way, they fought non-stop and cursed. Soon the two of them landed in a dense forest. They were still fighting in the dense forest. The demonic beasts that occupied this area were unhappy. It was fine if they were causing trouble in the sky, but they even dared to fight in their territory. They really did not take them seriously. The demonic beasts also joined in the fight. The battle changed from a one-on-one to a three-sided battle. Li Qingchuan's clone even scolded, "Huang Wanli, don't fail to appreciate my kindness. If you don't surrender, I'll have to kill you." Wang Daoyuan did not reply. He used the swift art and kept running. Li Qingchuan used the myriad sword art and dozens of long sword phantoms chased after him. Wang Daoyuan led the long sword phantoms to another demonic beast's territory and successfully angered another demonic beast. After an hour, more than 10 demonic beasts in the area were angered. Wang Daoyuan found a cave and went in. There was a brown bear in the cave. Li Qingchuan's clone followed behind and killed the brown bear with one sword strike. After that, Wang Daoyuan put away his clone and used the earth escape technique to leave the cave. After so long, he should be able to divert the attention of the Guiyuan sword sect to this forest. In order to prevent being tracked, he did not immediately return to the surface after leaving the cave. Instead, he continued to travel underground for hundreds of miles. Until he found an underground river, he used the cloud escape technique and followed the river's flow. Using the water to travel, it was impossible to track him. Finally, he came to a small lake in the mountains. He released the soul-chasing bees to check the surroundings and compared it with the map to confirm the location. Chapter 226. After confirmation, this place was more than 8,000 miles away from Guiyuan Market and less than 2,000 miles away from Huiyan Mountain. The water of this small lake flowed north through the mountain stream. After leaving the boundary of the Huiyan mountain range, the stream flowed towards the north for more than 5,000 miles. And merged into the Luling River north of the mountain. Luling River was the longest river in Huiyan Mountain. Its water came from the mountain stream at the north foot of Huiyan Mountain. It flowed north across grasslands, deserts, and all the way to the Arctic tundra. The river water in the cultivation world was mixed with spiritual energy, so it was not easy to freeze. Before the river flowed into the tundra, although it was cold, it did not freeze. When it flowed into the tundra, the river water flowed all year round. That was how the name Luling River came to be. The map Wang Daoyuan bought introduced the Luling River in great detail. There was a tributary on the west side of Luling River called Hanshui River. Its source was very close to the source of the Xianxia River. From the small lake, one could follow the current into Luling River and then enter Hanshui River. Going against the current, one could reach the source of the Xianxia River. Wang Daoyuan used the cloud mist escape in the river. His speed was comparable to a first-level Foundation establishment cultivator flying on a sword. He could travel more than 1,000 miles in 2 hours. Moreover, the consumption of spiritual energy was slightly less than that of flying on a sword. Most importantly, using the cloud mist escape in the water would not be tracked. Even if the Beiyuan sword sect sent people to find him, they could use special methods to trace the traces left behind by his earth escape and follow him all the way to the underground river. Then they could follow the underground river and follow it downstream. But after leaving the underground river and arriving at the small lake, they could not continue to follow him. Because he could fly away on his sword wherever he went, the people tracking him could not be sure where he left from. When flying on a sword in the air, the aura and other traces left behind would disappear in an instant. Although there were wars in Shannon from time to time, there was still the deterrence of the 3 major sects, so it was still peaceful. There were many treasure-hunting cultivators, but they did not dare to rob openly. They would only do it in places where there were few people. Things were different in Shannon. None of the sects had an overwhelming advantage. Other than the areas around the properties of large and medium-sized forces, where the treasure-hunting cultivators did not dare to casually make a move, the other areas were outside the law. 100 miles away from the returning wild goose market, there was a possibility of being ambushed by cultivators who wanted to snatch the treasure at any time. Sword kinesis flight was too obvious a target and the possibility of being ambushed was very high. Although Wang Daoyuan's strength was far superior to his peers, it was still difficult for him to win against a late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. However, most of the cultivators who wanted to snatch treasures were late Foundation establishment cultivators. After all, if one wanted to snatch treasures, they had to have the strength to do so. If he were to encounter a cultivator who wanted to steal his treasure, he would most likely be forced to flee like a rat. It would be safer to use the cloud mist escape in the water. Moreover, the monsters in the north of the mountain were much stronger than those in the south. No one dared to stop them when they ran around. If a human cultivator killed the bloodline of a high-level demonic beast, it would be a big deal. Fortunately, there were fewer aquatic monsters in the north of the mountain, and there were no high-level monsters, so there were no obstacles in the water. He followed the flow of the stream and used the cloud mist escape all the way. It only took him 10 hours to reach the main stream of Luling River. The aquatic monsters he encountered along the way were either first stage or second stage low grade. Their speed could not keep up with him at all and they were soon left behind. Following the Luling River north for more than 1,000 miles, he reached the mouth of the Hanshui River. He entered the mouth of the river without thinking. As soon as he entered the Hanshui River, he was frightened by the river water. This river water was indeed worthy of the name Hanshui River. Wang Daoyuan was soaked in the river water, shivering from the cold. The map also mentioned that the water of the Hanshui River was bone-chilling, but Wang Daoyuan did not take it seriously. Cultivators at the early stage of qi refining were not afraid of the cold and heat. He was already at the 3rd level of Foundation establishment, and cultivating the 5-spirit immortal transformation technique also had the effect of strengthening his body. How could he be afraid of the cold? In the end, he really could not withstand this cold river water. He used fire spiritual energy to protect his body, and stayed in the river water for half an hour, carefully feeling the cold air in the river water. At first, the cold air only stayed on the surface of his skin, and he could not feel anything unusual. Then the cold air gradually penetrated his muscles and meridians, and the spiritual energy in his body began to flow unsmoothly. Finally, the cold air invaded his knowledge sea and even his soul felt a chill. The cold qi in the frigid river was definitely not a simple cold. It was a mixture of yin qi and cold qi. He immediately went ashore. If he stayed in the water for too long, he might get frostbite. Injuries to the body were easy to heal, but the cold air also affected the soul. Once the soul was injured, it would be troublesome. The source of the Hanshui River was not far from Hell Valley. It must have been affected by the Gui Water Nether Spring. It was a pity that the Hanshui River was thousands of miles long, with many tributaries flowing into it. The cold air in the river water was very impure, and not suitable to nourish the ink jade lotus. Using mist escape in the water was not feasible. On the ground, his speed was slow and he could easily be attacked by land demons. He could only obediently fly on his sword. Huang Wanli's identity was already registered in the Origin Sword sect. He could not use it anymore and had to change it. He used a disguise art, changing his appearance to be similar to Zhou Ming's, and changed his name to Zhou Ming. He took out the fleeting flame sword he got from Zhou Xian and rushed to the Profoundine River. After learning the origin sword art, Wang Daoyuan's speed increased. Even without the startling wind sword, he could fly 2,000 miles in 2 hours. The Hanshui River's mouth was only 7 to 8,000 miles away from the source of the Profoundine River. After flying west for half an hour, he met 2 people flying in his direction. The two, one in front and one behind, seemed to be chasing each other. He did not want to get involved in a stranger's business, so he flew north to avoid the two. Wang Daoyuan did not want to meddle in other people's business, but it just had to happen to him. When the one running saw Wang Daoyuan, it was as if he saw a life-saving straw and chased him with all his might. Wang Daoyuan did not understand what was going on. He did not know if the two were chasing him or if the two were chasing him. His flying speed was very fast. It was very difficult for a normal middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator to catch up to him. However, these two people were not flying on their swords. The one running in front was at the 5th stage of foundation establishment. He was standing on a black banner which was emitting a ghostly aura. The one chasing him was at the 6th stage of foundation establishment. He was standing on a wheel-shaped magic tool made of white bones. It was obvious that these two people were evil cultivators. However, the speed at which they flew on their weapons was actually slightly faster than his own. If this continued, he would be caught up very soon. The cultivator standing on the black banner shouted, "Dao Yu in front, save my life. I will definitely thank you." Wang Daoyuan replied, "I am only at the early stage of foundation establishment. How can I save you? I have no intention of getting involved in your battle. Stop bothering me." The cultivator standing on the black banner said angrily, "Even if I die, I will drag someone down with me. If you are not willing to save me, then let's die together." The cultivator standing on the bone wheel smiled. "That's for the best. Buy one get one free. I can use your bones to refine magic tools." Wang Daoyuan wanted to kill them. Originally, he only wanted to quietly run to the source of the Mysticine River to collect pure yin qi. He did not want to cause trouble. However, if he did not want to cause trouble, trouble would come knocking on his door. It was too conspicuous to fight in the air. No matter what kind of Dharma spell he used, it would be easy for others to see. It was better to find a secluded place to deal with these two reckless people. As for whether he could defeat them or not, there was no need to consider. With the Earth Divine Thunder, these two evil cultivators were just food. Moreover, he had 3 Gui Water Thunder Pearls that could kill a peak foundation establishment cultivator. The 5 elements Divine Thunder was not too powerful against normal cultivators. However, there was still a gap between it and those ultimate moves that needed to be charged for a long time. Its biggest advantage was that it could be used quickly. However, it was a natural counter to these evil cultivators. Evil Dharma spells were most afraid of lightning. The 5 elements Divine Thunder was more than twice as powerful against evil Dharma spells. Chapter 227. Wang Daoyuan flew in the air and could see the scenery 1,000 miles away, so it was easy for him to find a suitable place. 100 miles north of the Cold Water River, there was a tall mountain with lush vegetation. The mountainside was surrounded by clouds and mist, and the scenery was beautiful. It was a good place to kill, to punish evil. He used all his strength to control his sword and flew towards the tall mountain, using the mountain and the vegetation as cover to take care of these two reckless people. When the two evil cultivators saw his speed increase, they also used all their strength to activate the magic tools under their feet and chased after him. The tall mountain was only 100 miles away from the 3 of them. In the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Wang Daoyuan arrived above the mountain. He did not stay in the air and quickly descended into the clouds halfway up the mountain. The 2 evil cultivators followed closely behind. The cultivator with the black banner shouted, "Dao Yu and I are both the target of this old thief Bai Xing. If we stand by and do nothing, both of us will die in his hands. If you and I work together, we can definitely defeat that old thief Bai Xing. If we can kill him, I don't want a single thing on him and give it all to Dao Yu. If we can't kill him, I'll compensate Dao Yu with a second-tier mid-grade magic tool. How about it?" Wang Daoyuan jumped out from a big tree and said, "Dao Yu is right, I also have the same intention." Bai Xing sneered, "Even if the 2 of you work together, you're still not my match. Besides, even if you can defeat me, Can a third-level foundation establishment kid like you deal with a despicable person like Du Heng? Wang Daoyuan did not mind and said, after you take down Daoyu, won't I have to deal with you, a sixth-level foundation establishment cultivator? I choose the lesser of two evils. I think the chances of escaping from a fifth-level foundation establishment cultivator are higher. Du Heng laughed. This little brother is still sensible and won't fall for your trick. Old thief Beiyuan, you don't have the confidence to take down the two of us, so you should retreat as soon as possible. If you insist on fighting, it's inevitable that both of you will be injured. In a place like the northern part of the mountain, being seriously injured is a 90% chance of survival. You don't want to give away your 100 years of accumulation to others for nothing, right? Beiyuan thought for a while and said, that's reasonable. If this little brother is not weak, it will indeed be difficult for me to take you down. But if I don't measure it, how can I know this little brother's strength? With that, he threw out the white bone wheel in his hand. The white bone wheel spun rapidly and flew towards Wang Daoyuan. Naturally, he would not take it. The evil cultivator's magic tool was not necessarily powerful, but he definitely had the most tricks up his sleeves. This white bone wheel was definitely not as simple as it seemed on the surface. It was not to entangle. Of the white bone wheel was not also not to his feet. His feet weren't idle either. He used the divine movement technique to avoid the white bone wheel. 4 breaths later, the red and yellow balls of spiritual power turned into a flaming meteor and smashed towards the bone wheel. On the other side, the white bone wheel had just dispersed the fire python when it flew toward Wang Daoyuan again. The fire meteorite and the white bone wheel collided. The white bone wheel was repelled and the fire meteorite was completely shattered. Beiyuan's expression changed. He did not expect Wang Daoyuan to be able to take his attack unscathed. Du Heng laughed. I didn't expect this little brother to be so capable to be able to take Beiyuan's attack head-on. Beiyuan, it's not a matter of whether you let us go or not, but whether you can leave alive. After he finished speaking, he waved the black banner in his hand, and 2 streams of black smoke rushed toward Beiyuan. Wang Daoyuan used his divine sense to probe and found that the black smoke was mixed with yin qi, resentment and evil qi. If he was hit, he would lose a layer of skin even if he did not die. The 2 streams of black smoke wrapped around Beiyuan. Beiyuan would not sit still and wait for death. He threw the white bone wheel at the black smoke. Although the 2 streams of black smoke were fast, they did not seem to be very strong. They should not be able to withstand the white bone wheel. When the white bone wheel hit the black smoke, the 2 streams of black smoke wrapped around the white bone wheel. The black smoke was very tough. No matter how hard the white bone wheel struggled, it could not get rid of it. Du Heng's eyes revealed joy and he mocked, Beiyuan, is that all you can do? Seeing that the 2 of them were in a stalemate, Wang Daoyuan condensed fire and earth spirit power again, preparing to use the meteorite fall technique to attack Beiyuan. Beiyuan was not a simple person. His divine sense had been locked onto Wang Daoyuan, and he could attack him at any time. As a 6th-level foundation establishment cultivator, Beiyuan naturally would not be taken down so easily. He channeled his spirit power into the white bone wheel. In the center of the white bone wheel was a circular bone plate about a foot in diameter. 9 long bones were evenly inserted into the circular bone plate. At the end of each long bone was a skeleton. As he injected his spirit power, one of the skeleton's spirit power fluctuations became intense. Then the skeleton spat out a gust of cold wind and blew toward the 2 streams of black smoke. In a moment, the 2 streams of black smoke were blown away. Seeing this, Du Heng waved the black banner and withdrew the remaining black smoke. Then he poured a large amount of spirit power into the black banner. 5 streams of black smoke flew out and hit the white bone wheel. The black smoke flew closer and the skeletons on the white bone wheel spat out an even more violent cold wind. The 5 streams of black smoke did not last long before they were blown away by the cold wind again. Beiyuan sneered and said, how about this? Then he drove the white bone wheel to attack Du Heng. Du Heng snorted and poured all the spirit power in his body into the black banner. The spirit power on the black banner instantly boiled. After a moment, the black spirit power on the banner condensed into a ball, and the banner turned white. The black spirit power ball turned into a black tiger that was more than 3 meters long. When the white bone wheel attacked, the black tiger opened its mouth and bit the white bone wheel. Beiyuan forcefully activated the white bone wheel several times, but there was no reaction. Du Heng's face revealed joy, and the black tiger's two front claws also grabbed the white bone wheel. The black spirit power seemed to be extremely corrosive, and the white bone wheel emitted a sizzling sound of corrosion. In a short period of time the white bone wheel would not be seriously damaged, but in a long time it was hard to say. Wang Daoyuan originally wanted to use the meteor fall technique to attack Bai Sheng. But seeing that the two of them were fighting back and forth and were only using their divine sense to guard against him and not take the initiative to attack, he simply stored up more spirit power and used the meteor fall technique. The white bone wheel was controlled, but Bai Sheng did not show the slightest bit of panic. After a moment, the 9 skulls on the white bone wheel shone brightly at the same time. The 9 skulls each spat out a type of spirit power. The 5 elements, ice, wind, and thunder, and the non-elemental spirit power. The spirit power of each attribute condensed into a spell and attacked the black tiger. These spells all carried a sinister aura and were not orthodox spells of the 5 elements or 3 elements. But their power was still not to be underestimated. The 9 spells exploded at the same time, and the black tiger was instantly blown to pieces. The aftermath of the explosion sent the white bone wheel flying, but the white bone wheel was not seriously damaged. Du Heng was not so lucky. The two of them used all their strength to attack and collided beside him. The aftermath of the explosion sent him flying dozens of feet away. If it was a spell of an ordinary cultivator, he might have a chance of survival. But both of them were evil cultivators, and their spirit power contained all kinds of yin qi, evil qi, and the like. It was useless in a confrontation of spells, but when it hit the body, the collateral damage caused was very strong. Du Heng had already used all his strength and he was hit at close range. With the collateral damage, it was impossible for him to survive. Du Heng was already dead. Bai Sheng withdrew the white bone wheel and said with a smile, "Du Heng is dead. I wonder how Daoyu will resist my 9-spirit white bone wheel?" Wang Daoyuan smiled and did not answer. The spirit power ball in his hand had already been accumulated and could be shot out at any time. It was just that when he saw the two of them fighting, he did not have the nerve to disturb them. Now Du Heng was completely defeated and it was his turn. He controlled the spirit power ball in his hand to fly into the air, and a flaming meteorite flew out of the spirit power ball and hit Bai Sheng. Chapter 228. Bai Sheng's white bone wheel was already damaged. If he continued to use it to block the meteorites, it might be completely destroyed. The white bone wheel was his main magic weapon. He was not willing to let it be destroyed like this. He took out another white bone shield. When the flaming meteorites hit the shield was not damaged at all. Wang Daoyuan still had a lot of spiritual energy left. He threw out another 4 flaming meteorites, but they were all firmly blocked by the white bone shield. The white bone shield was only dimmed, but it was not damaged. It only needed to be nourished for a while to recover. Although he was not proficient in using the meteor fall technique, and its power was far from Zhou Xian's when he killed the blood cloud python, the fact that the white bone shield could withstand it meant that it was not an ordinary item. Seeing that the white bone shield was intact, Bai Sheng smiled and said, "Daoyu, if you don't have any other tricks, just surrender. By the way, I'll ask for Daoyu's name. When I collect your soul, it's easier to shout your name." Wang Daoyuan was so angry that he laughed. A level 6 foundation establishment evil practitioner, at his peak, could teach him a lesson with the Wutu divine thunder. What's more, he had used too much spiritual energy. He could not use the 2 magic weapons for a while. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "When I'm outside, I prepared a few more names. Dai, which one do you want to know?" Bai Sheng said angrily, "You really don't know what's good for you. How dare you play with me?" Then he gathered fire attribute spiritual energy in his palm. Then he waved his hand and the fire attribute spiritual energy turned into a flaming long sword, which slashed towards Wang Daoyuan. The evil practitioner's magic contained yin qi, evil qi, and other things, so it could not be taken directly. Wang Daoyuan used the smoke escape and dodged to the side. Bai Sheng saw his escape technique and immediately became excited. What a brilliant escape technique. "Kid, give me your escape technique and I'll spare your life." This place was more than 20,000 miles away from the Wang family's territory. It was not strange that the wandering practitioners in this area did not recognize the Wang family's smoke escape technique. However, Bai Sheng's fire attribute spell wasn't bad. It wasn't a common spell like the Golden Blade spell. Its power was about 3 times that of the Golden Blade spell, and its speed was also a lot faster. Wang Daoyuan replied, "You want my escape technique with your meager abilities? On the other hand, your flaming saber isn't bad. Its power is much stronger than common spells. However, if you give me the spell, I won't let you live." Baixing was furious. He condensed a flying rock and smashed it towards Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan once again used smoke escape, easily dodging the attack. Baixing continued to condense a silver-white longsword and a water dragon, attacking Wang Daoyuan. This time Wang Daoyuan felt a bit strange. Baixing could actually use spells of 4 elements. Although multi-attribute cultivation techniques were not rare, most of them had 2 or 3 attributes. 5-attribute cultivation techniques were extremely rare, and 4-attribute cultivation techniques were unheard of. Penta Spirit Veins cultivators didn't pursue cultivation speed. 5-element cultivation techniques focused on fighting ability, and had the advantage of fast recovery speed. 2 or 3 elemental cultivation methods were meant to ensure that the cultivation speed was not too slow, and they pursued the strength of a battle. 4-attribute cultivation techniques didn't have the advantage of fast recovery speed of 5-element cultivation techniques, and the cultivation speed couldn't increase. Without both advantages, no one cultivated this thing at all. Therefore, this Baixing was very likely to be a Penta Spirit Veins cultivator who also cultivated 5-element cultivation techniques. He asked tentatively, "You're a Penta Spirit Veins cultivator?" Baixing said confidently, "I'm indeed a Penta Spirit Veins cultivator." "How about it? Do you still dare to boast shamelessly?" Wang Daoyuan urged his spiritual power to stimulate all 5 attributes. He smiled and said, "It's really rare. After cultivating for so many years, I've finally seen a foundation establishment cultivator with the same Penta Spirit Veins." Baixing also smiled and said, "Don't talk about you. I've lived for more than 100 years, and this is also the first time I've seen other Penta Spirit Veins cultivators. Seeing that we're both Penta Spirit Veins cultivators, I'll let you go if you hand over the escape technique and the spell that shot out the flying flame rock." Wang Daoyuan chuckled and said, "I have a brilliant spell here. I wonder if you're interested?" Baixing thought that he was enlightened and said excitedly, "Kid, you're quite smart. If you were like this earlier, I wouldn't have to waste so much effort." After saying that, Baixing suddenly rushed forward, wanting to launch a thunderous attack while Wang Daoyuan was relaxed. Wang Daoyuan put his left hand behind his back and raised his right hand. An earth divine thunder was instantly formed and shot towards Baixing. Baixing used his spiritual consciousness and felt the might of the thunderbolt. He was scared out of his wits. Unfortunately, his body was rushing forward and the earth divine thunder was too fast for him to dodge. He could only take out the white bone shield and take the earth divine thunder head-on. The white bone shield was also a mid-grade level 2 magic weapon. Logically speaking, it shouldn't be difficult for it to block the earth divine thunder. However, the earth divine thunder countered evil cultivators' spells and magic weapons. After taking the earth divine thunder head-on, 3 cracks appeared on the white bone shield. One of the cracks even went through the entire surface of the shield. Naturally, Wang Daoyuan wouldn't just stand there and watch. The second and third earth divine thunder followed. The speed of the earth divine thunder could be said to be the fastest among spells of the same level. Without a brilliant escape technique, it was impossible to dodge it. Baixing could only take it head-on. 3 consecutive earth divine thunders hit the white bone shield. After a dozen consecutive cracking sounds, the white bone shield shattered into dozens of pieces. Baixing himself was also sent flying several feet away by the impact of the earth divine thunder. Wang Daoyuan predicted where he would land and cast a quagmire spell. Baixing's entire body fell into a muddy pit with a diameter of about 10 feet. He had exhausted too much spiritual energy and was injured by the earth divine thunder. He couldn't break free from the quagmire spell. In just a few breaths' time, only his head was left outside. He couldn't fight back at all. He also noticed that the quagmire spell was corroding his body. He hurriedly raised his spiritual energy to defend himself. Wang Daoyuan walked over and cast an earth wall spell. It formed 2 hemispherical barriers and covered the 2 of them. Evil cultivators usually had strong spiritual energy. Without first using the soul extinguishing bell, he didn't dare to use the soul splitting blade. The soul extinguishing bell couldn't be leaked. Otherwise, if Qi Yun's old rival Chen Ji found out, He would be hunted down by a Zifu realm cultivator. With 2 layers of barriers, the sound couldn't travel far. The soul-extinguishing bell appeared beside him. As the bell rang, Beiyuan frothed at the mouth. Wang Daoyuan immediately dispersed the quagmire spell to prevent his clone from being corroded. Then he used the soul-splitting blade to attack Beiyuan's soul. Beiyuan was severely injured by the soul-extinguishing bell. He couldn't resist at all and was scattered. Wang Daoyuan took out the clone Zhao Baoguo's soul from the space of the spiritual pearl and injected it into Beiyuan's sea of consciousness. The value of the clone Zhao Baoguo was that he was a penta-spirit root cultivator and could be used as a test subject to improve spells. Now that he had a foundation establishment stage test subject, it didn't make much sense for him to be a Qi refinement stage cultivator. 3 of the original 4 Qi refinement clones were replaced with foundation establishment stage cultivators. Only the clone Liang Zixing was left. Liang Zixing used to learn alchemy. After Wang Daoyuan became a rank 2 alchemist, he didn't care about his alchemy skills. Later on, he had been developing dishes. It was easier for fire attribute cultivators to control the fire. The dishes that Wang Daoyuan thought of in his previous life were slowly explored and restored by him. The clone Liang Zixing made a huge contribution to the business of the Wang family restaurant. He was still useful, so he was kept for the time being. The other Qi refinement clones wouldn't die after their souls were extracted. It was just that they were muddle-headed. They couldn't think about things like cultivation. With a little training, they could still do simple work like raising spirit beast. Wang Daoyuan continued to keep them in the space and didn't directly eliminate them. Chapter 229. The 3 of them had been fighting on this mountain for quite some time and caused quite a commotion. There was a high chance that they would attract treasure-hunting cultivators and they could not stay here any longer. Wang Daoyuan took away Du Heng's storage bag and dermic weapon. He used earth attribute spirit energy to erode the corpse and cleaned up all traces of the fight. Thereafter he left the mountain peak. After dealing with the 2 evil cultivators, Wang Daoyuan could not help but lament. I thought that treasure-hunting cultivators would be the fastest way to earn spirit stones. To think that it would be even faster to do evil against evil. He had truly profited from dealing with Beiyuan and Du Heng. In comparison, Du Heng was relatively poor and only had 5,000 to 6,000 spirit stones and a few jade scrolls in his storage bag. The cultivation technique he cultivated was called the malevolent Yin art. During cultivation, one would have to absorb Yin Qi and malevolent Qi. There was no lack of those things in the mystic Yin River. If it was anywhere else, one could only rely on killing cultivators or mortals to collect Yin Qi and malevolent Qi. That cultivation technique could only be cultivated to the peak of foundation establishment and was considered a relatively low-level evil cultivation technique. Most of his dermic arts were used in conjunction with Yin Qi and malevolent Qi and were of no value to Wang Daoyuan. The only valuable jade scroll recorded a secret skill, the Yin gathering and malevolent attracting technique. That secret skill recorded the method to collect, store and use Yin Qi and malevolent Qi. Wang Daoyuan was going to collect pure Yin Qi and could use that secret skill. As for Du Heng's black banner, it was called the Tiger Soul Malevolent Banner. When refining that banner, the soul of a tiger-type demon beast was fused with it. Normally, Yin Qi and malevolent Qi were used to nourish the tiger soul. The stronger the tiger soul, the stronger the Tiger Soul Malevolent Banner. The grade of such dermic weapons had nothing to do with the materials used. It mainly depended on the strength of the tiger soul. As long as the materials could withstand the power of the tiger soul, they could be used to refine dermic weapons. The mystic Yin River was where evil cultivators gathered. Everyone had the mentality of being on the side of the same faction. If he were to run into a group of evil cultivators as a righteous cultivator, he might be surrounded and attacked. Wang Daoyuan decided to use the Tiger Soul Malevolent Banner as a cover to pretend to be an evil cultivator. Heretical cultivators had all kinds of strange Dharma artifacts and there were all kinds of them. However, most of them were either banners or flags. For example, Elder Zhou Qi of the Netherworld sect used a large black flag as his magic tool. Wang Daoyuan's use of the Tiger Soul Yin Fiend banner was not conspicuous. Du Heng didn't have much money, but Beiyuan was filthy rich. His split soul peeked into his memories and found out that this fellow had been doing the shady business of seizing treasures since he was in the middle stage of Qi refinement. In the beginning, he followed a few cultivators at the peak of qi refinement and relied on the leftovers to cultivate. After more than 20 years, he only reached the 7th level of qi refinement when he was 50 years old. Later on, he poisoned the other cultivators in the same group and took all the wealth that the group had accumulated over the years. He obtained a lot of pills, talismans, and artifacts, which were worth 20 to 30,000 spirit stones. He sold all the things he didn't need and exchanged them for spirit stones to buy pills that could increase his cultivation. It took him several years to raise his cultivation to the 9th level of qi refinement. Later on, he traveled around in search of opportunities. Finally, he found a place where a fiendish cultivator had passed away and obtained the fiendish cultivator's inheritance. The two most important things in this inheritance were the 5 elements blood demon technique and the 3rd grade superior grade artifact refinement inheritance that could refine heretical dharma artifacts. The 5 elements blood demon technique could be cultivated to the peak of the Purple Mansion realm. It was an extremely brilliant heretical cultivation technique. Using the blood and true essence of humans and demon beasts to cultivate the technique could make up for the slow cultivation speed of cultivators with 5 spirit roots. Beiyuan relied on this method to quickly increase his cultivation. With the powerful evil path cultivation method and evil path dharma artifacts, his fighting prowess had greatly increased. It would be much easier for him to snatch treasures. Soon he accumulated a large amount of spirit stones and successfully bought a foundation establishment pill, successfully reaching the foundation establishment realm. After reaching the foundation establishment realm, he refined the 9 spirits white bone wheel according to the heretical dharma artifact refinement inheritance. Since then he rarely had a match among his peers. Now he was more than 130 years old and had been seizing treasures for more than 100 years. The 9 spirits white bone wheel was made from the bones of cultivators. If it was damaged, it could be repaired with the bones of demon beasts or cultivators. Using the artifact refinement method, it could refine the essence of the artifact and repair any damage. Normally, it could be nourished with the blood of demon beasts or cultivators to increase its power. The 9 skeletons of the 9 spirits white bone will had the ability to store spiritual energy. Inside each skeleton, there was a special artifact pattern inscribed on it. This artifact pattern was similar to the runes of the spiritual talisman Tao. However, during the process of inscribing the runes, both spiritual energy and spiritual sense were required. However, the artifact pattern didn't have this requirement. It only needed to be able to display a certain function under the activation of spiritual energy. Under the activation of spiritual energy, the artifact pattern could release spells. The spiritual energy required to activate the artifact pattern could be stored in advance or injected into the artifact during battle. Wang Daoyuan naturally wouldn't refine a heretical dharma artifact, but this artifact refinement method could be used as a reference. Artifacts that could release spells were generally referred to as auxiliary artifacts in the orthodox dharma artifact refinement method. Grade 1 and Grade 2 offensive and defensive dharma artifacts such as sabers, swords, shields and armors generally didn't have any spells. They only had some simple functions similar to spells. Rank 1 and 2 support type magic tools usually only had 1 or 2 types of spells. Offensive and defensive dharma artifacts needed to clash with other dharma artifacts. The most important thing was their strength and not their special functions. Auxiliary artifacts didn't need to clash head-on with other dharma artifacts. They focused on special functions and had much lower requirements for the strength of the materials. The 9 spirits white bone wheel was more perverted. Not only could it be used for offense and defense like a flying sword, but it could also be used as an auxiliary artifact. It could also release spells like an auxiliary magic tool. Moreover, it could release spells of 9 different attributes. This kind of multi-purpose dharma artifact was very suitable for Wang Daoyuan, who was a cultivator of all 5 attributes. Although the heretical dharma artifacts wouldn't have an advantage against the orthodox dharma artifacts in battle. However, in terms of ingenuity, the heretical dharma artifacts were much better than the orthodox dharma artifacts. In the future, when he learned how to refine artifacts, he could use this idea to achieve the effect of multi-purpose artifacts. This was especially true for large-scale dharma artifacts such as flying boats. There was enough space to add various functions. Beiyuan had been a treasure-hunting cultivator for so many years. Apart from the heretical inheritance, there were many other things. In his storage bag there were more than 100,000 spirit stones. In addition, there were 4 or 5 heretical Dharma artifacts and more than 10 jade slips. What was recorded in these jade slips were also evil Dao techniques. Including the spells of the 4 attributes used in battle, they were all mixed with yin qi, evil qi and so on. Orthodox cultivators couldn't use them at all. Even if he didn't use these Dharma artifacts and spells, he could exchange them for spirit stones. From Beixing's memories, he knew that the source of the Xianyin River was especially rich with yin qi and evil qi. A large group of heretical cultivators had gathered there to cultivate. Where there were people, there would naturally be business. A few Peak Foundation establishment heretical cultivators took the lead and established a small market called the Xianyin Market. There one could buy all kinds of spiritual items, including demon beasts that the Guiyan market didn't dare to sell. Orthodox cultivators were afraid of demon beasts taking revenge, but heretical cultivators didn't care. Heretical cultivators had too many tricks up their sleeves. Any of their Dharma spells had additional damage, attacks on the soul, corrosion, poison and so on. It was easy to deal with demon beasts that were simple-minded and single-minded. Apart from mutants like the Thunder Ape, other demon beasts didn't dare to go against heretical cultivators. Beisheng's clone had a deep understanding of heretical cultivators. With his memories, it was much easier for Wang Daoyuan to blend in with the heretical cultivators. Apart from that, he could also learn weapon refinement and accumulate experience for himself. Beisheng's weapon refinement inheritance was from heretical cultivators. If he were to refine orthodox Dharma artifacts, he might not be able to unleash his original standards. However, they were both on the path of weapon refinement and would reach the same goal. He had the attainments of a middle-grade rank 2 weapon refinement master. If he switched to orthodox Dharma artifacts, his speed of improvement would be much faster than a layman. Chapter 230. To disguise as an evil cultivator, one had to look like one. Without an evil cultivator's magic weapon, one could not deceive others. From Beisheng's memory, he knew that he was famous among the evil cultivators, and the 9 spirits white bone wheel was also famous. If Wang Daoyuan took out the 9 spirits white bone wheel, it would be telling others that he killed Beisheng. It would be too conspicuous, so it was better to use the flag-type magic weapon common among evil cultivators. In the fight between Du Heng and Beisheng, the evil spirit in the tiger spirit banner was basically exhausted. There was only a thin layer of evil spirit left on the banner, which looked light gray. The tiger spirit in the banner was also badly damaged and extremely weak. It needed to collect evil spirit and recuperate to restore its original strength. The evil cultivator's cultivation method was easy to solve. His earth attribute spiritual power had the effect of eroding everything with the dust returning flame. When he used earth attribute magic, the killing effect was very similar to that of evil cultivators. As for activating the tiger spirit banner, it needed spiritual power and evil spirit. Any attribute of spiritual power could be used. As long as enough evil spirit was stored in the banner in advance, it could be activated with spiritual power. Although the Yin gathering and evil attracting skill was a secret skill, it was actually a way to control evil spirit. It was very simple. It was just that to store evil spirit, it needed a special magic weapon. It was not difficult to refine a magic weapon that could store evil spirit. Beisheng was an expert in this field. He could find a few materials with evil spirit and refine them into a spatial magic weapon that could store evil spirit. Wang Daoyuan did not have such a thing, but Du Heng had a mysterious Yin jade gourd with a space of 10 square feet. The inside of the mysterious Yin jade gourd was empty, and there was no evil spirit. He wanted to collect pure evil spirit and cultivate the inky jade lotus, so he also needed such a magic weapon. Moreover, he wanted to cultivate the inky jade lotus for a long time, so he needed pure evil spirit. Only one mysterious Yin gourd was not enough. However, when he arrived at the mysterious Yin market, there were many materials suitable for refining such magic weapons, and they were not very precious. He could buy more materials and let Beisheng refine them in the space. Although Beisheng's original intelligence and consciousness were destroyed, he was after all a second-rank middle-grade weapon refiner. After the split soul entered the main body, it would have the memories of the past as well as the remnant memories of the body. Even if he couldn't display the strength of a second-tier middle-grade magic tool, there was still hope for him to refine a second-tier low-grade magic tool. Refining a first-tier magic tool like the profound Yin Jade Gourd was not a problem at all. In order to disguise his identity, Wang Daoyuan had made the Tiger Soul Yin Fiend banner recognize him as its master. Sword Kinesis Flight was also a type of magic tool Kinesis Flight. The content of Sword Kinesis Flight in the art of Sword Kinesis Flight could also be used to drive other magic tools. With the Tiger Soul Yin banner flying faster than sword flight, he soon arrived at Hell Valley's former location. The high mountains on both sides of the canyon had also become low mountain ranges. These hills were oriented in a north-south direction, and between the two mountain ranges was a narrow plain. The main stream and all the tributaries of the Xianxia River originated from the small mountain ranges on both sides of the river. They flowed through the central plain and flowed northward. The source of the Xianxia River was called the Xianxia Spring. It was located in the middle of a small mountain range in the east. The water in the profound Yin Spring was plentiful, forming a pool with an area of more than 2 acres around the spring. This pool of water was the place with the densest Yin Qi in the Xianxia River basin. Yin Qi was also a type of spiritual Qi. According to its density, the Xianxia Spring was a mid-grade third-grade spirit spring. Wang Daoyuan learned from Bai Xing's memories that there were rules around the Xianxia Spring. The Yin Qi around the spring was far denser than the river outside. Only peak and late foundation establishment cultivators were allowed to occupy this area. Those below late foundation establishment had to show their skills if they wanted to occupy a spot around the Xianxia Spring. If they could beat a late foundation establishment cultivator, then no one would say anything. Mid-foundation establishment cultivators could occupy the river near the spring. Early foundation establishment cultivators could only occupy the river downstream, 100 zhang away from the spring. Bai Xing, with his mid-foundation establishment cultivation, occupied the area around the Xianxia Spring. If Wang Daoyuan used the Earth Divine Thunder, it wouldn't be a problem for him to defeat a Foundation Establishment Level 7 heretical cultivator. But he was pretending to be a demonic cultivator and couldn't use Earth Divine Lightning. He could only rely on ordinary Earth Elemental spells and the Tiger Soul Dark Banner. It wouldn't be difficult to deal with demonic cultivators of the same level, but he was no match for a 7th layer Foundation Establishment cultivator. Anyway, he was only here to scout the area and see if he could collect pure Yin Qi to nourish the Tiger Soul Dark Banner. As a 3rd layer Foundation Establishment cultivator, Wang Daoyuan was naturally at the front of the river section occupied by early Foundation Establishment cultivators. He walked to 100 zhang away from the Xianxia Spring and sat cross-legged by the river bank. He used the Yin Qi to gather Yin Qi from the river. Then he injected the Yin Qi into the Tiger Soul Dark Banner and used the secret technique of nourishing the Tiger Soul to heal its injuries. The Tiger Soul was equivalent to the weapon spirit of the Tiger Soul Dark Banner. Of course, it wasn't a true weapon spirit, but it had the same function. If the Tiger Soul was strong, the weapon would be strong. If the Tiger Soul was heavily injured, the weapon's power would be greatly reduced. He sat cross-legged at the best spot for early Foundation Establishment cultivators. Because he was a 3rd layer Foundation Establishment cultivator, the other early Foundation Establishment cultivators didn't dare to say anything. After a while, 2 more 3rd layer Foundation Establishment cultivators arrived. The 2 of them weren't from the same group. They came from different places. One of them had a similar cultivation as Wang Daoyuan. They were both at the 3rd layer Foundation Establishment and had already consolidated their cultivation. However, they were still quite a distance away from the 4th layer. After he arrived at the river bank, he sat on the opposite bank of Wang Daoyuan. The river made a turn here. The river flowed slowly where Wang Daoyuan was, making it easier to extract Yin Qi. However, the river flowed faster on the opposite bank, making it harder to extract Yin Qi. Although the other person was also at the 3rd layer Foundation Establishment, he could break through to the 4th layer at any time. This person was covered in Yin Qi and held a bone sword stained with blood. As the person with the highest cultivation among early Foundation Establishment cultivators, he didn't have the confidence to challenge a mid-Foundation Establishment cultivator. Therefore he targeted Wang Daoyuan. He looked at the Tiger Soul Dark Banner in Wang Daoyuan's hand. It seemed to be heavily injured and couldn't unleash much power. He stepped forward and provoked, "Brat, this spot should be mine. If you know what's good for you, move away quickly. Don't make me attack." Heretic cultivators were arrogant people. If they were too cowardly, they would be despised. If Wang Daoyuan wanted to pretend to be a heretic cultivator, he might as well pretend to be all the way. He had to show his arrogance. He couldn't be bothered with this heretic cultivator and replied, "Scram." The sword-wielding heretic cultivator was a little embarrassed. He waved his hand and the long sword in his hand went straight for Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan used the earth armor technique and prepared to take the sword head-on. Of course he wouldn't take the beating for nothing. He immediately used the meteor fall technique and condensed a flaming meteorite in his hand. The bone sword slashed the earth armor technique, but it only made the earth armor technique shake a little. On the other hand, the sword-wielding heretic cultivator was forced to take a few steps back. He wanted to attack again, but Wang Daoyuan had already prepared the flaming meteorite in his hand. He threw the meteorite at the sword-wielding heretic cultivator. This flaming meteorite flew very fast. Without a high-level escape technique or a late foundation establishment cultivator, there was no way to dodge it. Seeing that it was too late to dodge, the sword-wielding heretic cultivator could only block it with his sword. With a bang, the flaming meteorite hit the bone sword. The sword-wielding heretic cultivator took the attack head-on and was forced to retreat more than 3 meters. He even spat out a mouthful of blood. The bone sword in his hand was also damaged. A horizontal crack appeared on the sword's spine. If it received another heavy blow, the sword's body might break along the crack. Not only that, the earth attribute spiritual energy on the sword was constantly corroding the bone sword, making a sizzling sound. The sword-wielding heretic cultivator immediately injected spiritual energy into the sword to disperse Wang Daoyuan's earth attribute spiritual energy. The surrounding cultivators all looked at Wang Daoyuan strangely. Wang Daoyuan didn't know what was going on. He continued to absorb the yin qi. Chapter 231. A cultivator at the 5th level of foundation building next to him murmured, "What a powerful cultivation method. Can hide the evil yin qi so well. It's so corrosive, but I can't feel any fluctuation other than the spiritual power of earth." The evil cultivator with the sword still wanted to attack, but a cultivator at the 7th level of foundation building next to the spring reprimanded him, "Get out of the way if you lose. If you don't stop, you'll be punished severely." The evil cultivator with the sword didn't dare to attack again. He glared at Wang Daoyuan and walked downstream angrily. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands to express his gratitude to the cultivator at the 7th level of foundation building. The cultivator nodded and didn't say anything. Wang Daoyuan was about to continue extracting the evil yin qi when the rogue cultivator at the 3rd level of foundation building sitting opposite him sent a voice transmission to him. "Dao Yu is so capable. I'm Su Ting. I want to make friends with Dao Yu. May I know your name?" Wang Daoyuan laughed in his heart. The evil cultivators were really like this. The more arrogant and strong they were, the more other evil cultivators would think highly of them. He replied with a voice transmission, "I'm Zhou Ming." Su Ting continued to ask, "Dao Yu is very powerful. Can we go hunting in Mount Huiyan together in the future?" In the Shanbei area, demonic beasts were far more powerful than humans. Perhaps only people in this area dared to go hunting in the mountains. Wang Daoyuan replied, "No problem." Then he continued to extract the evil yin qi from the river. This place was still too far away from the spring. It took him half a month to fill the tiger soul banner with the evil yin qi. The tiger soul in the banner was too seriously injured and couldn't be recovered in a short time. It needed time to be nurtured slowly. He spent a few more days to fill the mysterious yin jade gourd with the evil yin qi. It was useless to stay here any longer. To store more evil yin qi, he needed more storage magic tools. He could only go to the mysterious yin market to buy materials and refine magic tools that could store the evil yin qi. The mysterious yin market was more than 20 miles north of the mysterious yin spring. It was built on a large spiritual vein of the 3rd level. This spirit vein was a non-elemental spirit vein and was more suitable for human cultivators to live in. Although evil cultivators could not leave the vile qi during their cultivation, their bodies would be injured by the vile qi. Heretical cultivators who relied on the baleful yin qi to cultivate usually did not live to the end of their lifespans. There were plenty of Righteous Path Foundation establishment cultivators who had lived up to 230 years old. As for Foundation establishment cultivators among the heretical cultivators, it was rare for them to live to 200 years old. Other than that, none of the evil cultivators of the baleful yin lineage walked the path of body refinement. This was because the spiritual energy in the body contained yin qi, and the vital essence condensed from spiritual energy would also carry yin qi. In the process of strengthening the body, the baleful yin qi would also damage the body. Evil cultivators of the baleful yin lineage had far weaker physical bodies than orthodox cultivators of the same cultivation level. The advantage of the baleful yin lineage was that their spells were more lethal to the human body. Moreover, the evil cultivation method did not have high requirements for the cultivator's aptitude. For example, Beiyuan, a pentaspirit root cultivator, had cultivated to the 6th level of the Foundation Establishment realm at the age of 130 and could break through to the 7th level of the Foundation Establishment realm at any time. His cultivation speed was comparable to a cultivator with 3 spirit roots. Beiyuan's cultivation method did not belong to the baleful yin lineage either. He relied on the essence blood of demon beasts and cultivators to cultivate. Not only would it not cause damage to the body, it would even strengthen it. This type of cultivation method made the body stronger than that of righteous path cultivators. Of course, this was not without a price. Apart from vital essence, the essence blood also contained resentment and a small amount of baleful yin qi. Cultivating with the essence blood of demon beasts and cultivators could easily affect one's mind and eventually turn into a human-shaped demon beast that only knew how to kill. Even those with strong wills would not be affected. However, when breaking through a major realm, it was almost impossible to avoid being disturbed by mental demons, and it was easy to die from them. Because the spirit energy of evil cultivators was mixed with things that were harmful to the body, even though it increased the lethality of their spells, they had to pay a huge price. That was why they were curious when they saw that Wang Daoyuan's spirit energy did not contain any trace of baleful yin qi. Without baleful yin qi, it meant that it would not harm the body. Not only could it ensure that the spirit energy had additional lethality, it would not harm the body or affect one's lifespan. This was extremely attractive to all evil cultivators. Wang Daoyuan had Beiyuan's memories and naturally knew about these things, but he did not care. Although the evil cultivators were envious of this cultivation method, cultivators in the late and peak stages of Foundation establishment would most likely not fight for it. Cultivators in the late and peak stages of Foundation establishment were not young anymore. They were still hoping to take a gamble and open up their purple mansion to extend their lifespan. Now that they had switched to a different cultivation method, it would be difficult for them to recover their current cultivation level without 10 or 20 years. They did not have much lifespan left, so who would dare to waste another 10 or 20 years? Moreover, they did not know what Wang Daoyuan's cultivation method was. If it was just for show and did not contain any baleful yin qi on the surface, it would still harm the body and it would be a waste of effort. Therefore, those who were interested in Wang Daoyuan's cultivation method were only in the early and middle stages of Foundation establishment. These evil cultivators would not make a move openly. The mystic yin spring allowed competition, but not a fight to the death so as not to affect other people's cultivation. The mystic yin market did not allow fights at all. There was only a distance of 20 miles between the market and the mystic yin spring. Once a fight to the death, it would affect both the market and the mystic yin spring. Therefore, fights to the death were not allowed from the mystic yin spring to the mystic yin market. Even if these evil cultivators wanted to make a move, they would only wait for him to go out and take the opportunity to sneak up on him. After collecting the mystic yin qi, Wang Daoyuan drove the tiger spirit yin qi banner to the mystic yin market. The mystic yin market covered a large area and the shops were scattered. 500 to 600 shops took up a dozen miles long and 3 to 4 miles wide. Each shop was very spacious. Wang Daoyuan came to the largest shop in the market, the 100 Arts Pavilion. It was said that anything related to elixirs, weapons and talisman arrays could be bought in the 100 Arts Pavilion. It was very convenient for him to find refining materials with yin qi here. The 100 Arts Pavilion was co-founded by the founder of the Mystic Yin Market. The Mystic Yin Market had been established for more than 200 years. The founder of that year had already been buried. The current owners of the Mystic Yin Market were all their descendants. The biggest shareholder of the 100 Arts Pavilion was surnamed Zhao. The Zhao family was causing trouble everywhere. Wang Daoyuan suspected that they were from the Zhao family whenever he saw someone surnamed Zhao. However, it was really hard to say. Although the Mystic Yin Market was very far from the Guiyuan Market, there was no natural moat between the two places. There were also no big forces interfering. It wasn't impossible for the Zhao family to intervene here. It was not surprising that they could use the Beiyuan sword sect to make use of the evil cultivators here. After all, the evil cultivators had many sinister means. When many cultivators gathered together to fight, their fighting power was stronger. Recruiting evil cultivators was much better than recruiting sword cultivators who were only good at fighting alone. Of course, the founder's surname might just be Zhao by coincidence. The Zhao family was not the only family with the surname Zhao. Zhao Baoguo was also surnamed Zhao. From his memory, there was no connection with the Zhao family. Wang Daoyuan walked into the 100 Arts Pavilion to look for refining materials. The 100 Arts Pavilion did business with all kinds of materials. Whether they were used by evil cultivators or not, they would be sold here. It was just that the materials used by evil cultivators were expensive, while the materials used by righteous cultivators were cheap. His target was materials with yin qi. This kind of thing was not rare here. Especially the mystic yin jade, it was especially cheap. The mystic yin jade was a specialty of the mystic yin river basin. It was possible to find a few pieces by strolling around the mystic yin river. The strength of the mystic yin jade was very poor. Other than refining a magic tool to store yin qi, it was not very useful. The first stage was more than 10 spirit stones per kilogram. The second stage was less than 100 spirit stones per kilogram. This price was nothing for a foundation establishment cultivator. Wang Daoyuan bought more than 50 kilograms of the second stage mystic yin jade and spent more than 2,000 spirit stones. After buying the mystic yin jade, he was about to look at other things when he met Su Ting. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.